A father's last hope. Held $78 million, and he had no idea. Daniel Hayes walked into that bank with $17 in his pocket, an eviction notice in his coat, and his sleeping daughter pressed against his shoulder. He was looking for spare change. Maybe enough for groceries. Maybe enough to keep the lights on one more week. What he found instead changed everything. Not because he deserved it, not because he asked for it, but because the woman he loved had been keeping a secret so powerful it could rewrite their entire future. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the Green Valley Community Bank buzzed like dying insects. Daniel Hayes noticed because he'd been staring at them for the past 3 minutes, trying to steady his breathing, trying to convince himself that walking through those glass doors wasn't the dumbest thing he'd done all week. And it had been a hell of a week. Mia's weight against his chest was the only thing keeping him grounded. She was 4 years old, small for her age, and she'd fallen asleep in the car on the way over. Her breath was warm against his collarbone, her tiny fingers clutched in the fabric of his second-hand jacket. She smelled like the strawberry shampoo they'd been rationing for 2 weeks, mixed with the faint sourness of the crackers she'd had for breakfast. It was the only breakfast they'd had. He shifted her weight carefully and pushed through the door. The bank was almost empty. 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, most people were at work. Daniel would have been too, if he still had a job. 3 weeks ago, the warehouse where he'd worked for 6 years had closed without warning. Just a note taped to the door. Effective immediately. Final checks will be mailed. His had been $247. It was gone now. A woman in a navy blazer looked up from behind the counter. Her name tag said Trish, and her smile was practiced, professional, and didn't quite reach her eyes. She saw Daniel, unshaven, wearing jeans with a hole in the knee, carrying a sleeping kid, and her expression shifted. Not unkind, exactly. Just careful. "Good morning," she said. "How can I help you?" Daniel approached the counter, adjusting Mia against his shoulder. His daughter made a small sound in her sleep, and he automatically rubbed her back. The motion was so ingrained he didn't even think about it anymore. He cleared his throat. "I need to check on an account." "Of course. Do you have your account number?" "No, I have this." He reached into his pocket with his free hand and pulled out the card. It was small, about the size of a credit card, but heavier. Matte black with a thin gold stripe across the middle. No logo, no bank name, just a series of numbers embossed on the front. Daniel had carried it in his wallet for 3 years without really looking at it. Lena had given it to him 2 months before she died, made him promise to keep it safe. "Just in case," she'd said. Her voice had been weak then, her skin paper-thin and yellow from the jaundice. "If something happens to me, if you ever need it, there's an account, okay? Promise me you'll keep the card." He'd promised. Of course he'd promised. And then she'd died. And the grief had been so massive and consuming that he'd forgotten about the card entirely until last night, when he'd been going through his wallet looking for anything, loose bills, old receipts he could return, anything, and found it tucked behind his expired insurance card. Trish took the card from him, turning it over in her hands. Her expression changed slightly. She looked at the card, then at Daniel, then back at the card. "One moment," she said. She walked to her computer, typed something, waited. Her colleague, a younger guy with gelled hair and a tie that looked too tight, glanced over, saw the card in Trish's hand, and his eyebrows went up. They exchanged a look Daniel couldn't quite read. Trish picked up a phone. "Hi, yes, I need you to come to the front desk, please." A pause. "No, right now, I have a client." The way she said client made something twist in Daniel's stomach. Mia stirred against him. "Daddy?" "Shh, baby. We're almost done." "I'm hungry." "I know. Soon, okay?" A man emerged from a door behind the teller stations. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit. His eyes went straight to the card in Trish's hand, and his entire posture changed. "Mr. Hayes?" he said. "Yeah, that's me. I'm Robert Chen, branch manager. Would you please come with me?" It wasn't really a question. Daniel followed him through the door, down a hallway with photographs of smiling families and inspirational quotes about dreams and futures. The irony wasn't lost on him. Mr. Chen led him to an office at the end of the hall, Corner office, windows overlooking the parking lot, furniture that looked like it cost more than Daniel's car. "Please sit," Mr. Chen said, gesturing to a leather chair. Daniel sat, settling Mia more comfortably against him. She was awake now but quiet, the way she'd learned to be over the past year. Kids picked up on stress. They absorbed it. Mr. Chen sat behind his desk and placed the card on the surface between them like it might explode. He typed something on his computer, frowned, typed more. His frown deepened. "Mr. Hayes, can I ask where you got this card?" "My wife gave it to me before she died." "I'm sorry for your loss." It sounded automatic. "And her name?" "Lena. Lena Hayes." More typing. "Mr." Chen's face went carefully blank, the expression of a man who'd just seen something he didn't understand and was trying very hard not to show it. "Mr. Hayes, I'm going to need to make a phone call. This is unusual. Would you excuse me for just a moment?" He left the office without waiting for an answer. Daniel sat there with Mia in his arms, feeling like he'd made a terrible mistake. Whatever this was, it wasn't spare change in a forgotten checking account. People didn't get escorted to corner offices for $17.43. "Daddy, I really need to pee," Mia whispered. "Okay, baby, let's—" The door opened again, but it wasn't Mr. Chen who walked in. The woman who entered was maybe 40, black, with natural hair pulled back in a neat bun and a charcoal suit that probably cost what Daniel used to make in a month. She carried herself like someone who'd never been told no in her life and wouldn't know what to do with it if she had. "Mr. Hayes." "Hayes," she said. Her voice was cool, professional, with just a hint of something that might have been skepticism. "I'm Vanessa Cole, Senior Private Banking Manager. Mr. Chen asked me to assist with your inquiry." She sat down across from him without asking, placed a tablet on the desk, and looked at him with eyes that saw everything and gave away nothing. "Your daughter needs to use the restroom," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, she—" Vanessa picked up the desk phone. "Trish, could you come to my office, please?" She hung up. "Someone will take her. We need to talk." "I'm not leaving her with—" "The restroom is 30 feet down the hall. Trish has worked here for 12 years and has 3 children of her own. Your daughter will be fine." Trish appeared in the doorway like she'd been waiting. Vanessa nodded at her and Trish smiled at Mia, a real smile this time, warm and genuine. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. "Want to come with me? We have a really nice bathroom, and I think there might be some cookies in the break room." Mia looked at Daniel. He wanted to say no. He wanted to keep her close, keep her safe, but she was squirming and he could see the calculation in Vanessa Cole's eyes. If he couldn't trust his daughter with a bank employee for 5 minutes, this conversation was over. "It's okay, Mia Bear. Go with Ms. Trish. I'll be right here." Mia slid off his lap and took Trish's hand. Daniel watched them leave, his chest tight. Vanessa waited until the door closed. Then she leaned back in her chair and studied him with the intensity of someone reading a balance sheet. "So," she said, "let's talk about this account." "I don't even know if there is an account. My wife gave me that card 3 years ago, and there's an account." Vanessa tapped something on her tablet. "The question is whether you have any idea what you're sitting on." "Look, I just need to know if there's anything there, anything at all. We're being evicted on Friday, and—" "Mr. Hayes," she turned the tablet around so he could see the screen. "Do you recognize this name? Eleanor Whitmore?" Daniel looked at the document on the screen. Legal language, dense and incomprehensible. And yes, there it was, Eleanor Whitmore Trust, beneficiary account. "No," he said. "Should I?" Vanessa's expression flickered, surprise maybe, or something close to it. "You really don't know." "Don't know what?" She tapped the screen and a new document appeared. More legal text, but this time he caught fragments. Bone marrow donation, life-saving procedure, terms of gratitude, financial provision. 7 years ago, Vanessa said, a woman named Lena Hayes registered as a bone marrow donor. 6 months later, she was matched with a child who was dying of leukemia. The child's family was wealthy, very wealthy. They offered her money. She refused. They offered to pay her medical expenses. She refused. She donated anonymously, asked for nothing, and disappeared back into her life. Daniel's throat felt tight. Lena had never mentioned this. Not once. The family was persistent, Vanessa continued. They hired investigators, found her anyway, and they decided that if she wouldn't accept their gratitude directly, they'd provide for her future another way. They established a trust, private, ironclad, structured so that if anything happened to her, the beneficiary would be her spouse and any children. A trust, Daniel repeated. His brain felt sluggish, unable to process what she was saying. Like, how much are we talking about? Vanessa looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned the tablet back around, typed something, and turned it to face him again. The number on the screen didn't make sense. It had too many digits. Daniel stared at it, trying to make his brain accept what his eyes were seeing. That's not... He swallowed hard. That can't be right. $78,437,612, Vanessa said. As of this morning, the trust has been accruing interest for 7 years. The original deposit was $50 million. The room tilted. Daniel gripped the arms of his chair, trying to breathe. No, he said. No, that's a mistake. There's no way Lena would have... If she had access to this, we wouldn't have been... His voice cracked. We were eating ramen. We couldn't afford her medications. She died because we couldn't pay for the treatments that might have saved her. If this money existed, she would have used it. She couldn't. Vanessa's voice was gentler now. Look at the dates, Mr. Hayes. The trust was established 7 years ago, but the terms didn't allow her to access it. The family wanted to provide for her future, but they also wanted to protect their privacy. The structure was complex. She could have fought it, probably won, but it would have meant lawyers, publicity, everything she'd specifically avoided by donating anonymously. The trust became accessible only under specific circumstances. Her death was one of them. Daniel couldn't speak, couldn't think. $78 million. While Lena was dying in a hospital bed they couldn't afford, while he'd been selling everything they owned to pay for medications that only delayed the inevitable, while Mia had been eating cereal for dinner because it was all they could manage, this money had been sitting here. She didn't know, he said. His voice sounded far away. She couldn't have known and not told me. She wouldn't have let us suffer like that if she knew. Vanessa hesitated. Then she tapped her tablet again. The trust documents were delivered to her address 6 years ago. Certified mail. Signature required. According to our records, someone signed for them. She showed him the screen. There was Lena's signature, dated 2 months before her diagnosis. The world went very quiet. Mr. Hayes, Vanessa said carefully, I need you to breathe. He was breathing. He was breathing too fast, actually, and his hands were shaking and he felt like he might throw up or pass out, or both. Lena had known. She'd known for 2 years that this money existed and she'd never said a word. She'd let them struggle. She'd let herself die. Why? The word came out raw. Why wouldn't she tell me? I don't know. Vanessa's professional mask had cracked slightly. Maybe she was planning to. Maybe she was trying to figure out how. Maybe she didn't trust me with it. The thought was acid in his throat. Maybe she thought I'd waste it. Or maybe, Vanessa interrupted quietly, she was protecting you. From what? From being able to save her life? From the people who created this trust. Vanessa pulled up another document. Look at the stipulations. The family maintained certain controls. If anyone connected to the donation went public, if there was media attention, if the child's identity was ever revealed, the trust would be dissolved immediately. Every penny would revert to the family's foundation. Your wife would have gotten nothing, and you would have gotten nothing. I don't give a damn about the money. But she did. Vanessa's voice was steady. Not for herself. Look at the beneficiary designations. Look at what she set up in the months before she died. She turned the tablet again. Daniel saw his name, saw Mia's name, saw provisions for education, healthcare, housing, saw pages of instructions about trust management, investment strategies, protection from predators and scammers. She was dying, Vanessa said. And she spent her last months making sure you and your daughter would be taken care of. She couldn't access the money herself without risking everything, but she could make absolutely certain that when it became yours, you'd be protected. Do you understand what I'm telling you? She chose your future over her present. Daniel put his head in his hands. His eyes burned, but no tears came. He felt hollowed out, scraped clean. The door opened. Trish came back in with Mia, who was clutching a cookie and looking pleased with herself. "Daddy, they have cookies with chocolate chips." He pulled her onto his lap automatically, wrapped his arms around her, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and felt like the only real thing in the room. Vanessa gave him a moment, then she cleared her throat. "Mr. Hayes, I need to ask you some questions, for verification purposes, and then we need to discuss how you want to proceed with the account." "I don't want it," he said into Mia's hair. "That's not actually an option. The trust is irrevocable. It's yours whether you want it or not." "Then give it to charity. I don't care." "You have a 4-year-old daughter," Vanessa said, and her voice had an edge now. "You're being evicted on Friday. Your wife spent her dying months setting this up for you. The least you can do is listen to what your options are." Mia twisted in his lap to look at him. "Daddy, why are you sad?" "I'm not sad, baby." "You sound sad." He kissed her forehead. "Just tired." Vanessa waited. Daniel closed his eyes, took a breath, tried to pull himself together. He was good at that. He'd had a lot of practice over the past year. You didn't fall apart when your kid was watching. You saved it for 3 a.m. when she was asleep and you were alone in the dark. "Okay," he said. "Tell me what I need to do." The next hour was a blur of paperwork and questions. Date of birth, social security number, current address, which wouldn't be his current address much longer, employment history. What employment? Next of kin. Vanessa worked through a checklist with mechanical efficiency, occasionally pausing to explain something in terms simple enough that even his shock-numbed brain could process it. The trust was complicated. There were rules, restrictions, guidelines. He couldn't just withdraw $78 million and buy a yacht. Not that he wanted a yacht. The thought of buying anything felt obscene right now. There were investment managers, a whole team of them, apparently, who'd been managing the trust for years. There were lawyers. There were tax implications that made his head spin. Vanessa explained it all in her cool, professional voice, and Daniel nodded and signed where she told him to sign and felt completely disconnected from everything happening. Mia got bored about 20 minutes in and started kicking her feet against his shin. Vanessa called Trish back in, and this time Daniel let his daughter go without protest. What was the point? Everything was already out of his control. "The immediate priority," Vanessa said once they were alone again, "is establishing access to operational funds. I can set up a checking account linked to the trust and transfer enough to handle your immediate needs." "How much do you need right now?" The question was so absurd Daniel almost laughed. "I don't know. I can't think about this right now." "You're being evicted on Friday. How much do you owe?" 3 months back rent, $4,200. Vanessa made a note. "Utilities? Maybe $300. I haven't opened the latest bills." "We'll call it $5,000 for immediate housing expenses." "What else?" "Car payments? Credit cards?" "Car's paid off." "Credit cards?" He rubbed his face. "Maybe $8,000 total. I stopped paying them 2 months ago." "Medical debt?" The question hit like a punch. "A lot." "How much?" "I don't know exactly. Over 100,000, maybe closer to 2. I stopped keeping track." Vanessa didn't even blink. "We'll arrange to have those paid. What else?" There isn't anything else. That's it. That's my whole financial disaster." "All right." She made more notes. "I'm going to set up your checking account with an initial transfer of $50,000. That should cover everything immediate while we work out a longer-term financial plan. The trust managers will want to meet with you, probably next week. They'll need to explain the investment structure, go over your options. I'll coordinate that." $50,000, Daniel repeated. Last week, he'd been trying to figure out how to make $17 last until Friday. Now this woman was casually talking about depositing enough money to buy a decent car into his checking account like it was nothing. "Is that insufficient?" Vanessa asked. "I can make it more." "No, He stopped, started again. "This is insane. You understand this is completely insane, right?" For the first time, Vanessa's professional facade cracked into something almost like a smile. "Mr. Hayes, I've been a private banker for 15 years. I've seen lottery winners, inheritance surprises, cryptocurrency millionaires, and people who found stock certificates in their attic worth millions. This is unusual, yes. Insane? Not even top 5. What's number 1? A man who bought a storage unit at auction and found $3 million in cash hidden in a mattress. Turned out to be his own father's money. The father had dementia and forgot he'd put it there. The son had been paying for his father's nursing home care for years, nearly bankrupted himself doing it, and had no idea his father had been secretly wealthy his whole life. Jesus. People are complicated, Vanessa said. Money makes them more so. She pulled out a new form. I need you to sign here. This authorizes the initial transfer and establishes you as the primary account holder. Your daughter is already listed as the secondary beneficiary per your wife's instructions. Daniel took the pen. His hand was steadier now. He looked at the form, at the line where he was supposed to sign, and something in him balked. What if I don't want this? He asked. What if I can't handle this? Then you hire people who can. That's what the trust managers are for. What if I screw it up? What if I waste it or lose it or… Mr. Hayes. Vanessa's voice was sharp enough to cut through his spiral. Your wife didn't set this up so you could be paralyzed by guilt and fear. She set it up so you could take care of your daughter. So you could have choices. So you could breathe without worrying about whether you can afford groceries. Sign the paper. He signed. Vanessa took the form, reviewed it, nodded. All right, the transfer should process within the hour. You'll receive a temporary debit card today, permanent cards in 7 to 10 business days. I'm also going to give you my direct number. She wrote on the back of her business card. If you have questions, concerns, or if anyone contacts you claiming to be from the trust, you call me first. Understood? Yeah. She stood, extended her hand. Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. Try not to look quite so miserable about it. He shook her hand automatically. Her grip was firm, confident. The handshake of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Of course. When I walked in here this morning, you thought I was nobody, didn't you? Vanessa didn't flinch. I thought you were a man in a difficult situation, carrying a card you probably didn't understand. I was partially right. But you didn't think I belonged here. No, she said simply. I didn't. I was wrong. It happens. Does it? More than you'd think. She picked up her tablet. Come on. Let's get your daughter and get you out of here. I imagine you have things to process. They found Mia in the break room, sitting at a table with Trish and the young guy with the too tight tie. There were coloring pages spread out, and Mia was carefully filling in a picture of a butterfly with crayons that had clearly seen better days. Daddy, look! She held up her picture. Ms. Trish says I'm really good at staying in the lines. You are, baby. That's beautiful. Trish smiled at him, and it was different now, warmer, less careful. News traveled fast in small banks, apparently. Daniel took Mia's hand. Say thank you to Ms. Trish and Mr. He realized he didn't know the young guy's name. Kevin, the guy supplied, and she's welcome here any time. They walked back through the bank, past the teller windows and the photographs of smiling families. Vanessa walked them to the door, shook Daniel's hand again, reminded him to call if he needed anything, and then they were outside, in the parking lot, in the late morning sunshine. Daniel's car, a 15-year-old Honda with a cracked windshield and questionable brakes, sat exactly where he'd left it. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Mia tugged his hand. Daddy, can we get McDonald's? I'm really hungry. Daniel looked down at his daughter, his small, patient, hungry daughter, who'd learned not to ask for things because asking usually meant disappointment, who'd eaten crackers for breakfast and called it fine, who'd smiled about cookies like they were treasure. Yeah, he said. His voice cracked. Yeah, baby, we can get McDonald's. Can I get a Happy Meal? You can get whatever you want. Her eyes went wide. Really? Really. In the car, driving to McDonald's with Mia chattering excitedly about whether to get nuggets or a hamburger, Daniel felt the first crack in the numbness that had been holding him together. His hands started shaking on the steering wheel. His breath came short. He pulled into the parking lot and sat there, gripping the wheel, trying not to fall apart. Daddy? Mia's voice was small. Are you okay? Yeah, baby. I just need a minute. She was quiet. Then, is this about Mommy? Everything was about Mommy. Everything had been about Mommy for the past year. The space she'd left, the silence she'd left, the impossible weight of being a single father to a 4-year-old when he barely knew how to be a person himself. And now this secret, this gift, this burden she'd carried alone. Daddy? He turned to look at his daughter. She was watching him with Lena's eyes, dark brown, serious, too old for her age. I'm okay, he lied. Let's go get you that Happy Meal. Inside McDonald's, Daniel let Mia order whatever she wanted. She got nuggets and fries and a chocolate milk and an apple pie, and when the teenager behind the counter told them the total, Daniel pulled out his old debit card, the one with $14 left on it, and handed it over. It declined. Of course it did. He'd known it would. He'd spent those last $14 on gas to get to the bank. Sorry, he said, reaching for his wallet again. Let me... But he didn't have another card, didn't have cash, didn't have anything except that black card Vanessa had given him, temporary access to an account that allegedly had $50,000 in it as of an hour ago. His hands shook as he pulled it out. The teenager swiped it, waited. The register beeped approval. You're all set, she said, handing it back. Daniel took the card, took the receipt, and had to grip the counter to stay upright. It was real. It was all real. They sat in a booth by the window. Mia ate her nuggets with the intense focus of a very hungry child, dipping each one carefully in ketchup and savoring every bite. Daniel picked at his own food, a burger he didn't remember ordering, and watched her. She looked like Lena. Everyone said so. Same dark hair, same serious eyes, same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. Sometimes it hurt to look at her. Sometimes it was the only thing that kept him going. This is the best day, Mia announced through a mouthful of fries. Yeah, we got McDonald's and cookies, and I colored a butterfly, and you're not sad anymore. I'm not sad, baby. You were sad in the car. She didn't miss anything. 4 years old, and she saw everything, absorbed everything, remembered everything. I was just thinking about Mommy, he said. Mia nodded seriously. I think about Mommy too. Every day. What do you think about? How she used to sing the butterfly song, and make pancakes on Sundays, and read me stories with all the voices. She dipped another nugget. Do you think she can see us? The question hit harder than it should have. Daniel wasn't ready for it, didn't have an answer that wouldn't break either his heart or hers. I think... He stopped, started again. I think if she can, she's really proud of what a good, brave girl you are. And you're a good, brave daddy. His throat closed up. He reached across the table and took her small, ketchup-sticky hand in his. We're going to be okay, he said. And for the first time in a year, he almost believed it. They finished eating. Mia played with her Happy Meal toy, some plastic character Daniel didn't recognize, and asked if they could go to the park. Daniel said yes before he even thought about it. Yes to the park. Yes to the swings. Yes to staying as long as she wanted because for once, for the first time in forever, they didn't have anywhere else to be. The park was empty on a Tuesday afternoon. Mia ran straight for the swings, and Daniel pushed her, watching her laugh and kick her legs and shout, "Higher, Daddy! Higher!" like she was flying. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out one-handed, still pushing the swing. It was an alert from his bank. The real one, the old one, the one that had been in the red for months. Account overdrawn. Service fees applied. Available balance, negative $47. He stared at it for a moment. Then he pulled out the black card Vanessa had given him, looked at the customer service number printed on the back, and wondered what would happen if he called it. Would someone answer? Would they confirm this wasn't all some elaborate fever dream? Daddy, watch this. He looked up just in time to see Mia jump off the swing at the height of its arc. She landed in the dirt, stumbled, caught herself, threw her arms up in triumph. Did you see? I saw. That was amazing. She ran to the slide, climbed up, came down, ran to the monkey bars, even though she was too small to reach them herself. Daniel followed, lifting her when she asked, catching her when she dropped, present in a way he hadn't been able to be in months because survival didn't leave room for presence. But now. He sat on a bench and watched his daughter play and let himself imagine, just for a moment, what life might look like now. A new apartment. A real one. Not the barely furnished place they were being evicted from. Maybe even a house. Mia could have her own room. He could fill the fridge with actual food. She could have new clothes that fit, toys that weren't from thrift stores, books that didn't have pages falling out. She could have a future. The thought was too big. He couldn't hold it all at once, so he broke it down into smaller pieces. Dinner tonight, breakfast tomorrow, paying the rent so they didn't have to move. One thing at a time. His phone buzzed again. Different alert this time from an unknown number. Transfer complete. Current available balance, $50,000. 00. Daniel stared at the number until the screen went dark. Then he put the phone back in his pocket and called Mia over. Ready to go home, baby? Can we come back tomorrow? We can come back whenever you want. Her smile could have lit the whole city. They drove home, back to the cramped one-bedroom apartment they'd been living in since Lena died. The place he'd been dreading returning to because the eviction notice was still taped to the door, and the electricity bill was still unpaid, and the whole space smelled like failure. But when he pulled into the parking lot, none of that felt quite as crushing as it had this morning. The notice was still there. The bills were still unpaid. But now they could be paid. Now he had choices. He peeled the eviction notice off the door before Mia could see it, crumpled it up, threw it in the trash. Then he sat down at the kitchen table, the one Lena had found at a yard sale 6 years ago, and pulled out his laptop. The property management company's website loaded slowly. Daniel navigated to the payment portal, entered his account information, stared at the amount due. $4,200. He pulled out the black card. It felt heavy in his hands, heavier than plastic should feel. Like it weighed as much as all the choices he was about to make, all the ways his life was about to change whether he was ready or not. He entered the card number, confirmed the payment, hit submit. Payment successful, just like that. 14 months of stress, of dodging calls from the property manager, of checking the door every day for another notice. Gone. Paid. Done. He paid the electric bill next, then water, then internet, then the credit card companies, all of them, entering each amount with shaking hands and watching the confirmation screens pop up one after another. By the time he was done, he'd paid off nearly $12,000 in debt, and the black card still had $38,000 attached to it. Daniel closed the laptop and sat in the kitchen, listening to Mia sing to herself in the other room, and tried to understand what had just happened. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Hayes, Vanessa's voice, still crisp and professional. I wanted to check in, make sure everything processed correctly. Yeah, it's all... It worked. Good. I also wanted to remind you that the trust managers will be reaching out early next week to schedule a meeting. It's important that you attend. I will. And Mr. Hayes, I know this is overwhelming, but you're going to be fine. You have good people in your corner now, and your wife made sure this trust is protected from almost everything, including your own doubts. Use it. That's what it's for. After she hung up, Daniel sat holding his phone and thought about Lena. About the woman he'd married, the mother of his child, the person he thought he'd known better than anyone. She'd saved a stranger's child, built a fortune she never touched, set up a future she'd never see, and she'd never said a word. Daddy! Mia appeared in the doorway, holding a book. Can you read to me? Of course, baby. He settled on the couch with her curled against his side, opened the book, a tattered copy of Where the Wild Things Are they'd read 100 times, and started reading. Mia knew all the words by heart, mouthed them silently along with him. When he finished, she looked up at him. Daddy, are we going to be okay now? The question was too big for a 4-year-old to have to ask, but she'd been asking it in one form or another since the day Lena died. Yeah, Mia Bear, he said, and this time he meant it. We're going to be okay. She smiled and snuggled closer, and within minutes she was asleep, her breathing slow and steady against his chest. Daniel sat there holding her, watching the afternoon light fade through the window, and let himself feel it, all of it, the grief and the guilt, and the anger, and the overwhelming, terrifying weight of everything that had just changed. Lena had carried this secret for 2 years. 2 years of knowing salvation existed, but choosing not to claim it. Choosing instead to protect her daughter's future at the cost of her own present. He didn't understand it, didn't know if he ever would, But sitting there with Mia asleep in his arms, in the apartment they no longer had to leave, with a future that was suddenly wide open in front of them, he understood this much. Whatever Lena's reasons, whatever her fears or calculations or desperate hopes, she'd done this for them, for Mia, for him. And the least he could do was make it count. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple and gold. Daniel watched it through the window and thought about tomorrow, about next week, about all the tomorrows stretching out ahead of them like an unwritten story. They were going to be okay. They were going to be more than okay. And somehow, somewhere, he hoped Lena knew that. Daniel woke up at 3:17 in the morning because his body had learned that 3 a.m. was when you were allowed to fall apart. Mia was asleep in her bed, the only actual bed in the apartment, a twin mattress he'd bought used when they moved in. He slept on the couch. Had been sleeping on the couch for 14 months because selling their bedroom furniture had bought them 2 extra weeks in the old place before the landlord finally kicked them out. He sat up in the darkness, his heart pounding for no reason he could name. Or maybe for every reason. The black card was on the coffee table where he'd left it, next to his wallet and keys. In the dim light from the street lamp outside, he could just make out the gold stripe across its middle. $50,000, $78 million in trust. His wife had saved a dying child and never told him. The thoughts circled in his head like birds that wouldn't land. He got up, paced to the kitchen, filled a glass with water from the tap. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of someone moving around upstairs. He'd gotten used to the noises over the past year, learned to sleep through them, learned to sleep through a lot of things. He pulled out his phone and opened his email. 3 new messages since he'd gone to bed. One was from the property management company confirming his payment. One was spam about car warranties. The third was from an address he didn't recognize, tmiller@whitmoretrust.com. He opened it. Mr. Hayes, my name is Thomas Miller, and I'm the Senior Managing Director of the Whitmore Family Trust. Ms. Cole from Green Valley Bank informed me of your visit today and the activation of your beneficiary status. First, please accept my condolences for the loss of your wife. From everything I understand, Lena was an extraordinary person. Second, I'd like to schedule a meeting with you at your earliest convenience to discuss the trust structure, your options, and the support services available to you. I understand this is likely overwhelming, and my team is here to help you navigate it. Would you be available to meet on Monday, April 7th at 10 a.m.? We can meet at your location if that's more comfortable. Or you're welcome to come to our offices in the city. Please let me know what works best for you. Regards, Thomas Miller. Daniel read it twice. Then he looked at the time, 3:20 in the morning, and wondered if normal people responded to emails at 3:20 in the morning, or if that was a sign you were losing your grip. He typed back anyway. Mr. Miller, Monday works. I can come to your office. What's the address? Daniel Hayes. He hit send before he could overthink it, then immediately regretted the bluntness. Should he have said more? Been more formal? Thanked the guy for reaching out? His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Excellent. Our office is at 1847 Morrison Street, Suite 2200. I'll have my assistant send calendar details and parking information. Looking forward to meeting you. Daniel stared at the response. Either Thomas Miller was also awake at 3 in the morning, or rich people had their emails set up to auto-respond immediately. He wasn't sure which option was weirder. He went back to the couch, but didn't sleep. Just lay there in the dark, listening to the building settle around him, thinking about Monday. About walking into some office building downtown, into a world he knew nothing about, to talk to people who probably thought he was an idiot. Maybe he was an idiot. He'd worked in a warehouse for 6 years. He had a high school diploma and half a semester of community college he'd dropped out of when Lena got pregnant. What did he know about managing millions of dollars? By the time the sun came up, he'd convinced himself this was all a mistake, that he'd walk into that office on Monday and they'd tell him there'd been an error, the money wasn't really his, sorry for the confusion. Mia woke up at 7, stumbled out of her room rubbing her eyes, climbed onto the couch next to him. Morning, Daddy. Morning, baby. Can we have pancakes? Daniel looked at her hopeful face and messy hair, and made a decision. Better than pancakes, he said. Get dressed. We're going out for breakfast. 20 minutes later, they were at the IHOP 2 blocks away, sitting in a booth with sticky menus and syrup bottles that had seen better days. Mia ordered chocolate chip pancakes with whipped cream and a side of bacon. Daniel got coffee and eggs and watched his daughter eat like she'd never seen food before. "Slow down," he said. "It's not going anywhere." "But it's so good." She had whipped cream on her nose. The waitress, name tag said Linda, probably in her 60s, looked tired, came by to refill his coffee. "Your little girl's got quite the appetite." "Yeah, she's making up for lost time." Linda smiled, but there was something knowing in it. She'd probably seen plenty of families like them, scraping by, making IHOP a special occasion instead of a regular Tuesday. The check came to $23. Daniel pulled out the black card, and this time his hands didn't shake when he handed it over. It went through. Of course it did. On the way home, Mia asked if they could stop at the dollar store. "Just to look," she said quickly, like she was afraid he'd say no. "We can do more than look," Daniel said. "Pick out some stuff you want." Her eyes went wide. "Really? Really?" Inside the store, Mia moved through the aisles like a kid in a candy shop, which was appropriate because they spent 10 minutes in the actual candy aisle while she agonized over which treats to pick. She settled on gummy bears, chocolate bars, and some sour strips that made Daniel's teeth hurt just looking at them. Then came the toy aisle. She found a stuffed elephant with floppy ears and held it like it was precious. "Can I get this?" "Yeah, baby, whatever you want." She hugged the elephant to her chest, then kept browsing. Coloring books, crayons, Play-Doh, bubbles. She picked things up, examined them seriously, put most of them back. Even now, even with permission, she'd learned to be careful, to not want too much. "Mia," Daniel said, crouching down next to her, "you can get all of it, okay? You don't have to choose." "All of it?" "All of it." She looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. Then slowly she started gathering things in her arms. The elephant, the coloring books, the crayons, bubbles, a jump rope, some hair clips shaped like butterflies, a plastic tea set. At the register, the total came to $47. The cashier, a teenager who looked deeply bored, bagged everything while Mia bounced on her toes with barely contained excitement. Back in the car, Mia clutched the elephant and looked at all the bags. "This is the best day ever," she said. "Yeah? Yeah, even better than yesterday." "Well, we've got a lot of best days coming, Mia Bear." She smiled, but then her face got serious. "Daddy, why do we have money now?" The question hit him square in the chest. He should have been prepared for it, should have thought of an answer, but he hadn't. "Remember how Mommy helped people sometimes?" he said carefully. "How she was always doing nice things for other people." Mia nodded. "Well, a long time ago she helped someone very special. Someone who was sick. And that person's family wanted to thank her, so they set up something to make sure you and I would be okay. Does that make sense?" "Mommy saved someone?" "Yeah, she did." Mia thought about this, clutching her elephant. "Mommy was the best." "Yeah, baby, she really was." The rest of Wednesday passed in a blur of small normalcies that felt revolutionary. They went to the park again. They got groceries, real groceries, not just the cheapest versions of everything. Daniel let Mia pick out a box of the good cereal, the kind with freeze-dried strawberries that cost twice as much as the store brand. He bought fresh fruit, vegetables that weren't wilted, chicken breast instead of the mystery meat that came in tubes. At the checkout, the total was over $100. He didn't even flinch. That night, he made actual dinner. Nothing fancy, just chicken with rice and steamed broccoli, but it was hot, and there was enough of it, and Mia ate 2 helpings and asked for more. "This is really good, Daddy." "Thanks, baby." "Are we rich now?" The question stopped him mid-bite. "Why do you ask that?" She shrugged. "We have good food, and new toys, and you're not sad all the time anymore." "I'm not sad." "You were sad before, I could tell." 4 years old, and she'd been carrying that, watching him struggle and pretend he wasn't. The guilt of it sat heavy in his chest. "Things are better now," he said. "We're going to be okay." "Because Mommy helped someone?" "Yeah, because Mommy helped someone." After dinner, after Mia was in bed with her new elephant tucked under her arm, Daniel sat down with his laptop and did something he'd been avoiding. He Googled Eleanor Whitmore. The results filled his screen. Eleanor Whitmore, daughter of tech billionaire Marcus Whitmore and philanthropist Catherine Whitmore. Now 21 years old, she'd survived acute lymphoblastic leukemia at age 14 thanks to a bone marrow transplant from an anonymous donor. She'd gone on to graduate early from high school, was currently attending Stanford, and had started her own nonprofit focused on increasing bone marrow donor registration among young people. There were photos. A young woman with dark hair and her mother's eyes, smiling at charity events, speaking at donor drives, very much alive. Lena had done that. Lena had saved this girl's life. And this girl had grown up and was out there changing the world because she'd gotten the chance to grow up at all. Daniel closed the laptop, his throat tight. Thursday morning, his phone rang while he was making breakfast. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Daniel Hayes? Yeah, that's me. Hi, Mr. Hayes. This is Jennifer from Dr. Morrison's office. I'm calling about your outstanding balance. His stomach dropped. Dr. Morrison had been Lena's oncologist. The bills from her treatment had been piling up in a drawer for months because there was no point in opening them when he couldn't pay them anyway. I know I'm behind, he said. I'm working on it. Actually, sir, I'm calling because we received a payment this morning that cleared your entire account. I wanted to confirm that you authorized it. Daniel's brain stuttered. I'm sorry, what? Your balance was $67,412. We received a wire transfer this morning for the full amount. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an error. I didn't... He stopped. Thought. Can you tell me where the payment came from? It shows as coming from Whitmore Trust Management. Is that something you set up? He hadn't, but apparently someone had. Yeah, he said slowly. Yeah, that's right. I authorized it. Wonderful. Well, your account is now at a zero balance. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, that's... Thank you. After he hung up, he called Vanessa Cole. Mr. Hayes? She answered on the second ring. What can I do for you? Someone paid off my wife's medical bills. $67,000. Did you do that? The trust managers have access to your financial records as part of the initial assessment. When they saw the outstanding medical debt, they took care of it. Is that a problem? No, you could have asked me. Mr. Hayes, that debt was accruing interest at 18%. Waiting to ask you would have cost the trust money. The managers are very good at their jobs. This is what they do. Daniel leaned against the kitchen counter trying to process. How many other bills did they pay? I don't have that information, but I imagine Mr. Miller will go over everything with you on Monday. Try not to panic. This is all part of the service. I'm not panicking. You sound like you're panicking a little. I just found out strangers are accessing my financial records and paying off my debts without telling me. That's not weird to you? You signed authorization forms on Tuesday. You gave them permission to manage the trust, which includes addressing liabilities that impact your financial stability. If you want them to stop, you can revoke that authorization, but I wouldn't recommend it. These people know what they're doing. After they hung up, Daniel checked his email. 3 more messages from addresses he didn't recognize. One was from the hospital where Lena had died, account paid in full. One was from a collections agency, account settled and closed. One was from his credit card company, all outstanding balances resolved, account in good standing. In less than 48 hours, people he'd never met had erased nearly $200,000 in debt. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt like he was losing control of his own life. Friday morning, he got a call from his landlord. Mr. Hayes, I wanted to touch base about your lease renewal. Daniel had to take the second to remember that they even had a lease. He'd been so sure they were getting evicted that he'd stopped thinking about it as a real place they lived, just a temporary shelter they were borrowing. The lease isn't up until June, he said. I know, but given your recent payment history, I wanted to reach out early. Your rent's been paid through the end of the lease term, plus you put down first and last month on a renewal. I did what? Someone from a trust management company called yesterday. Said they were handling your finances now. They paid everything current and set up automatic payments going forward. I just wanted to confirm you were aware. Daniel rubbed his face. Yeah, I'm aware. Great. Well, if you decide you want to move to a bigger place, just let me know. But you're good here as long as you want to stay. After he hung up, Daniel stood in the middle of his tiny living room and looked around. This apartment was supposed to be temporary. They'd moved here right after Lena died because it was cheap and available, and he'd been too destroyed to think about anything beyond basic survival. The walls were thin, the carpet was stained, and the whole place smelled faintly of the Thai restaurant downstairs. But it was theirs. For now. Mia came running out of her room, already dressed, her new elephant under her arm. "Daddy, can we go to the library? Ms. Anderson says they have story time on Fridays." Miss Anderson was Mia's preschool teacher, or had been, before Daniel had to pull her out because he couldn't afford the tuition anymore. That had been 2 months ago. Mia asked about school sometimes, about her friends, about whether she could go back. He'd been telling her maybe soon without believing it. "Yeah, baby, we can go to the library." The library was packed with kids and parents for story time. Daniel found a spot in the back and settled on the floor with Mia in his lap, while an enthusiastic librarian read a book about a caterpillar that ate too much. Mia was rapt, laughing in all the right places, participating when the librarian asked questions. Afterward, they browsed the picture books. Mia picked out 6 and carried them to the checkout desk like treasure. The librarian scanned them and smiled. "These are great choices. Will we see you next week?" "Can we come back next week?" Mia asked, looking up at Daniel. "Every week if you want." Her smile could have powered the whole building. On the way out, they passed the community board covered in flyers. Summer camp registration, tutoring services, preschool programs. Daniel stopped at one advertising a Montessori school a few miles away. Year-round enrollment, small class sizes, individualized learning plans. He pulled out his phone and took a picture of the flyer. That night, after Mia was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table and made a list. Not of what he wanted to buy. He couldn't think that way yet, couldn't wrap his head around actually spending this money. Instead, he made a list of what Mia needed, what any kid needed: education, healthcare, stability, friends, activities, space to grow. The list got longer as he wrote. He added things he'd been pushing out of his mind for months. Dental work he'd been putting off. New shoes because hers were getting too small. A real bed for himself because his back was killing him from sleeping on the couch. By the time he was done, the list covered 2 pages. He looked at it, at all the ways they'd been just getting by, and felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't just about money. It was about building a life instead of just surviving one. Saturday morning, he woke up with a plan. "Mia, get dressed. We're going shopping." "For what?" "You'll see." They drove to a furniture store Daniel had passed 100 times but never been inside. The kind of place with showrooms and salespeople and price tags that used to make his stomach hurt. The sales guy who approached them was maybe 30, wearing a tie and a smile that looked genuine. "Good morning. What can I help you folks find today?" "My daughter needs a real bedroom," Daniel said. "Bed, dresser, everything." "Wonderful. Is there a particular style you're looking for?" Daniel looked at Mia. "What do you think, baby? What kind of bed do you want?" Her eyes went wide. "I can pick?" "You can pick." They spent an hour walking through the showrooms. Mia fell in love with a white bedroom set with drawers that had crystal knobs and a headboard with built-in bookshelves. It came with a matching dresser and nightstand. "This one," she said, running her hands over the smooth wood. "Can I have this one?" The sales guy checked his tablet. "Great choice, and we can deliver as early as Monday if—" "We'll take it," Daniel said. "And I need a mattress and box spring too, whatever's good quality." "Excellent. Let me get you set up." At the register, the total came to just under $3,000. Daniel handed over the black card without hesitation. While they were loading the delivery information into the system, Mia tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, what about you? Don't you need a bed too?" The sales guy looked up. "We're running a promotion on our platform beds. Let me show you what we have." 20 minutes later, Daniel had also ordered himself a queen-size bed with a frame and a mattress that the sales guy promised would change his life. He wasn't sure about that, but at least his back might stop hurting. Total for everything, $5,800. They left the store with delivery scheduled for Monday afternoon, and Mia chattered the whole drive home about her new room and how she was going to arrange her stuffed animals on the shelves and which pajamas she'd wear the first night in her new bed. Daniel listened and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not the desperate clinging by fingernails kind. The real kind. The kind that made plans. That afternoon, his phone rang. Thomas Miller. Mr. Hayes, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. No, it's fine. What's up? I wanted to give you a heads up before our meeting on Monday. The trust managers have completed the initial financial assessment, and there are some items we'll need to discuss. Nothing concerning, he added quickly, just administrative matters, but I wanted you to be prepared. Okay, like what? Well, for instance, your current living situation. The trust has provisions for housing upgrades, and given your family's needs, we'd like to discuss relocating you to a more suitable property. You want me to move? We want you to have options, but we can discuss all of that on Monday. I just didn't want it to come as a surprise. Also, I understand you have a daughter who's preschool aged? Yeah, Mia. She's 4. The trust includes educational provisions. We'll want to talk about enrollment options for the fall and possibly summer programs as well. Daniel's head was spinning. This is a lot. I know. That's why we're here to help. Monday at 10, all right? We'll walk through everything step by step. After they hung up, Daniel sat on the couch and stared at nothing. Moving, schools, housing upgrades, educational provisions. This was real. This was all actually real. Sunday, they went to church, not because Daniel was particularly religious, but because Lena had been, and it had felt important to her that Mia grow up with some sense of community. They'd stopped going after she died because Daniel couldn't handle the sympathetic looks and the questions about how he was holding up. But today felt different. Today he could walk in and not feel like he was drowning. The service was the same as always. Music, prayers, a sermon about faith that Daniel only half listened to. But afterward, during coffee hour, something unexpected happened. Karen Chen approached them. She'd known Lena from the church volunteer committee, had brought casseroles in the weeks after the funeral, had checked in occasionally until it became clear Daniel wasn't really up for checking in. Daniel, it's so good to see you. She crouched down to Mia's level. And look how big you've gotten. Do you remember me? Mia nodded shyly, half hiding behind Daniel's leg. Karen straightened up. How are you doing? Really? We're okay, Daniel said, and meant it. Actually, we're better than okay. Things are looking up. I'm so glad to hear that. Lena would be happy to know you're doing well. The mention of Lena's name didn't hurt quite as much as it used to. Yeah, she would. Listen, there's a family event next weekend, picnic in the park, very casual. You should come. Mia would love it, and it would be good for you to have some adult conversation that isn't about bills and logistics. Daniel was about to say no automatically, but then he stopped. Why not? Why not start building a life that included other people, normal things, connections beyond just him and Mia surviving? Maybe, he said. Let me see how the week goes. I'll text you the details, no pressure. Walking to the car afterward, Mia asked, Daddy, are we going to the picnic? Do you want to? Yeah, Miss Karen is nice, and she said there would be other kids. Then we'll go. Monday morning arrived too fast. Daniel dropped Mia off at a neighbor's apartment, Mrs. Patterson, a retired teacher who'd been occasionally watching Mia for free because she knew they couldn't afford daycare. He'd slipped $200 into an envelope and left it on her counter before he left. She'd probably try to give it back. He'd have to insist. The address Thomas Miller had given him led to a glass and steel tower downtown, the kind of building Daniel had only ever seen from the outside. He parked in the visitor garage, took the elevator to the 22nd floor, and stepped into an office that looked like something from a magazine. The receptionist smiled at him. Mr. Hayes? Yeah. Mr. Miller is expecting you. Follow me, please. She led him through a maze of offices and conference rooms to a corner suite with windows overlooking the entire city. Thomas Miller stood up from behind his desk, tall, maybe 50, graying hair and a suit that probably cost more than Daniel's car. Daniel, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming. Please sit. Daniel shook his hand and sat in one of the leather chairs facing the desk. Everything in this office was expensive and carefully chosen and a little intimidating. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm good. Thomas sat down and pulled up something on his computer. Let me start by saying that the Whitmore family wanted me to express their gratitude for your wife's extraordinary gift. Eleanor is thriving because of Lena's generosity, and they've never forgotten that. They don't need to thank me. I didn't do anything. You're her family. That matters to them. Thomas turned his monitor so Daniel could see the screen. Now let's talk about where we are. The trust was established 7 years ago with an initial deposit of $50 million. Through careful management and market growth, it's currently valued at just over $78 million. As of Friday, we've settled approximately $208,000 in outstanding debts and liabilities on your behalf. Daniel nodded, trying not to look as overwhelmed as he felt. Moving forward, we need to discuss distribution strategy. The trust is structured to provide for you and your daughter's needs while preserving the principal for long-term growth. That means we're not simply handing you $78 million to do with as you please. I don't want $78 million. Thomas smiled slightly. Most people say that at first. What we're proposing is a structured approach. Monthly distributions to cover living expenses, separate allocations for housing, education, healthcare, and emergency needs. Everything managed by our team to ensure long-term stability. He pulled up another document. Based on our assessment, we're recommending a monthly living allowance of $15,000, with additional funds available for approved major expenses. Does that seem reasonable? $15,000 a month. Daniel made $22,000 a year at the warehouse, or had before it closed. That's more than reasonable. Excellent. Now, regarding housing, your current apartment is, Thomas paused delicately, not ideal for long-term residency. We'd like to help you find something more suitable. Do you have any preferences? Location, size, particular needs? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. That's fine. We can work with a realtor to explore options. My suggestion would be to look at 3 or 4 bedroom houses in good school districts. Something with a yard, space for your daughter to grow. The trust can handle a purchase up to $1.5 million without requiring special approval. Daniel's brain short-circuited. I can't afford $1 million house. You're not affording it. The trust is. That's the point. I don't know how to live in $1 million house. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Mr. Hayes, can I be frank with you? Sure. You're going to have to get comfortable with a level of financial security you're not used to. That's going to take time, and it's going to feel strange. Our job is to make sure you don't make catastrophic mistakes while you're adjusting. But you need to start thinking differently about what's possible for your family. This money exists. It's yours. You can use it to build a good life, or you can be paralyzed by guilt and fear and waste the opportunity your wife created for you. Which do you want? The bluntness of it landed like a slap. I want to do right by my daughter. Then let us help you do that. Thomas pulled up another document. Let's talk about education. Your daughter is currently not enrolled in any preschool program, correct? I had to pull her out. Couldn't afford it. We'd like to get her re-enrolled for the fall, potentially in a more comprehensive program. There are several excellent options in the area. We can arrange tours if you'd like. Yeah, I'd like that. They spent the next hour going through details that made Daniel's head spin. Investment strategies, tax implications, legal protections. Thomas explained everything in terms that were mostly understandable, but it was still like learning a new language. Finally, Thomas closed his laptop and looked at Daniel directly. I know this is overwhelming, but you're not alone in this. We're here to help, and we're very good at what we do. Your wife made an extraordinary sacrifice for a stranger, and that family wants to make sure her sacrifice means something for your future. Let them do that. Daniel nodded, his throat tight. One more thing, Thomas said. The Whitmores would like to meet you and your daughter whenever you're ready. No pressure, no timeline, just when it feels right. The thought of meeting these people, these strangers who'd shaped his life without him even knowing, felt impossible. But he heard himself say, maybe, someday. That's all they're asking for. Maybe someday. Thomas stood and extended his hand again. We'll be in touch later this week about the housing search and school tours. In the meantime, spend some time with your daughter. Start thinking about what kind of life you want to build. And try not to panic. I'll try. Walking out of that building, back into the afternoon sunshine, Daniel felt like he'd been holding his breath for an hour and could finally exhale. His phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Patterson. Mia's having a great time. No rush picking her up. He sat in his car for a while, not ready to drive yet, and thought about everything Thomas had said. A house with a yard, a good school, $15,000 a month, a future that looked nothing like anything he'd imagined. And underneath it all, the question he couldn't shake: what would Lena think of all this? Would she be proud? Would she feel like it was worth it? He'd never know. That was the thing he had to live with. But he could make sure Mia knew, could make sure his daughter grew up understanding that her mother had been someone who changed lives, who gave without expecting anything back, who'd built their future with her last breath. He started the car and drove to Mrs. Patterson's apartment. When she opened the door, Mia came running. "Daddy, Mrs. Patterson taught me how to bake cookies." "She did?" Mrs. Patterson smiled. "Chocolate chip. She's a natural." Mia held up a slightly lopsided cookie wrapped in a napkin. "I saved you one." Daniel took it, bit into it, made exaggerated sounds of appreciation that made Mia giggle. "Best cookie I've ever had." On the drive home, Mia said, "Daddy, when does our new furniture come?" "This afternoon, actually." "You excited?" "So excited. I'm going to put all my books on the shelves and my stuffed animals on the bed and—" She kept talking, planning out her new room in exhaustive detail, and Daniel listened and smiled and felt something shift inside him. This was real. This was happening. And maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. Better than okay. They were going to have a life. The furniture arrived at 4:30. Two guys in matching polo shirts hauling boxes and wrapped pieces up the narrow stairwell while Daniel and Mia stood out of the way. The apartment suddenly felt even smaller with all the packaging material and the careful choreography of getting a headboard around a tight corner. "Where do you want the bed, sir?" the older delivery guy asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. "The bedroom. My daughter's bedroom." Mia bounced on her toes. "That's my room." They worked for nearly an hour, assembling both beds, arranging furniture, hauling away the packaging. When they finally left, the apartment looked different. Better, like a place where people actually lived instead of just survived. Mia stood in the doorway of her room, staring at her new bed with its white frame and built-in bookshelves, like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "Go ahead," Daniel said. "Try it out." She climbed onto the mattress carefully, testing its softness, then flopped backward with her arms spread wide. "It's so bouncy." "You like it?" "I love it. Can I sleep in it tonight?" "That's kind of the idea, yeah." She sat up, her face suddenly serious. "Daddy, where's your bed?" "In the living room. Come see." She followed him out to where the delivery guys had set up his new bed against the far wall. It took up most of the available space, made the living room look even more cramped than before, but Daniel didn't care. His back was already thanking him. "Now you have a real bed too," Mia said, satisfied. That night, after Mia had arranged and rearranged her stuffed animals on her new shelves at least 5 times, after she'd insisted on trying every possible sleeping position on her new mattress, after she'd finally settled down with her elephant and her worn-out copy of Goodnight Moon, Daniel tucked her in and felt something close to contentment. "This is the best room ever," she whispered, already half asleep. "Sweet dreams, Mia Bear." He left her door cracked open. She didn't like it completely closed, and went back to the living room. His own bed looked strange there, too big for the space, but when he finally lay down on it around 11, the difference was immediate. Actual support. Actual comfort. He hadn't realized how much pain he'd been carrying in his shoulders and lower back until it started to ease. He fell asleep faster than he had in months. Tuesday morning brought an email from someone named Patricia Reeves with the subject line, "School Tours Schedule." Daniel opened it while Mia ate cereal at the kitchen table, milk dribbling down her chin. "Mr. Hayes, Thomas Miller asked me to coordinate school tours for your daughter. I've arranged visits to 3 highly rated programs. Riverside Montessori, Thursday, April 10th, 9 a.m., Brookfield Academy. Thursday, April 10th, 1 p.m., Meadowbrook Preparatory. Friday, April 11th, 10 a.m. All 3 offer year-round enrollment and have immediate openings. Please confirm your availability. Best regards, Patricia Reeves." Daniel stared at the email. Preparatory. Academy. These weren't just preschools. These were the kind of places he'd driven past without ever imagining his daughter would attend. He confirmed all 3 appointments, then looked at Mia. "How do you feel about going to look at some schools this week?" She perked up. "Real school? With other kids?" "Yeah, baby. Real school. Can I bring my elephant?" You can bring whatever you want. Wednesday was quieter. Daniel took Mia to the park in the morning, watched her play with other kids while he sat on a bench and tried to wrap his head around everything that had changed in less than a week. A woman sitting nearby, another parent, kid on the swings, smiled at him. "Your daughter?" she asked, nodding toward Mia. "Yeah." "She's sweet. How old?" "4. Just turned 4 in February." "Mine's 5. First year of kindergarten has been rough." She laughed. "I'm Sarah, by the way." "Daniel." They made small talk for a while, the easy kind of conversation between parents watching their kids play. Sarah didn't ask about his job or his life or why he was at the park on a Wednesday morning, just talked about her son's obsession with dinosaurs and the challenge of getting vegetables into a picky eater. It felt normal. So normal that when Sarah eventually had to leave, Daniel felt a strange pang of disappointment. When had he last had a normal conversation with another adult? One that wasn't about bills or debt or medical appointments? That afternoon, his phone rang. Vanessa Cole. "Mr. Hayes, I wanted to check in. How was your meeting with Thomas?" "Overwhelming, but okay, I think." "Good. I also wanted to let you know that your permanent debit and credit cards will arrive tomorrow. The credit card has a $50,000 limit for now, but that can be adjusted if needed." $50,000 limit. Daniel remembered being excited about getting approved for a credit card with a $500 limit back when he and Lena first got married. "Thanks for letting me know." "One more thing," Vanessa said, and her voice shifted slightly. "I received a call yesterday from a journalist asking questions about the Whitmore Trust and your wife's donation. I told them we don't comment on private client matters, but I wanted to give you a heads up. If anyone reaches out to you directly, you're under no obligation to speak with them. In fact, I'd strongly recommend you don't." Daniel's stomach tightened. Why would a journalist be asking about this? The Whitmore family is very high profile. Your wife saved their daughter's life. If word gets out about the trust, it could become a story. The trust documents have strict confidentiality clauses. If information goes public, there could be complications. Just be careful who you talk to. After they hung up, Daniel sat with that for a while. The idea that this could become public, that strangers might start asking questions about Lena, about the money, about all of it, it made his skin crawl. He looked at Mia, playing with her tea set on the floor, completely oblivious to everything churning beneath the surface of their new life. "Daddy, do you want pretend tea?" "Sure, baby." She poured imaginary tea into a plastic cup and handed it to him with exaggerated formality. "It's very hot, so be careful." He pretended to blow on it, took a pretend sip. "Delicious. Best tea I've ever had." She beamed and poured herself a cup, settling into the familiar ritual. For a few minutes, everything was simple again. Thursday morning, Daniel dressed Mia in her nicest outfit, a dress Lena's mother had sent for her birthday. Barely worn because where did they ever go that required a dress? He put on khakis and a button-down shirt that was slightly too big because he'd lost weight over the past year. "Why are we so fancy?" Mia asked, twirling to make the dress spin. "Because we're going to meet some teachers and see if we like their school." "Will I have to stay there?" "Not today. Today, we're just looking." Riverside Montessori was in a converted Victorian house with a fenced playground and flowers blooming in careful beds along the walkway. Inside, everything was child-sized and carefully organized. Low shelves with labeled bins, small tables and chairs, workspaces that looked more like tiny offices than classrooms. The director, a woman named Margaret Chen, gave them a tour while explaining the Montessori philosophy in a calm, measured voice. Mia clung to Daniel's hand at first, shy, but gradually warmed up when Ms. Chen showed her the practical life area. Tiny pitchers for pouring, buttons for buttoning, all the activities designed to teach independence through doing. "Can I try?" Mia asked, looking at a tray with colored water and small cups. "Of course," Ms. Chen said. While Mia carefully practiced pouring water from one cup to another, Ms. Chen turned to Daniel. "She's very focused. That's wonderful to see. She's always been good at concentrating when something interests her." "Has she been in a school program before?" "Yeah, for about 6 months, but I had to—" He stopped, not sure how to explain. "Things got complicated." "I understand. Well, if you decide Riverside is a good fit, we'd love to have her. We have openings in our preschool program, and she could start as early as next week. Next week. Just like that. They visited Brookfield Academy in the afternoon. Newer building, bigger facility, more structured curriculum. The classrooms were bright and organized, full of educational posters and student work. The teacher they met seemed competent and kind, but something about it felt too institutional. Too much like the schools Daniel remembered from his own childhood. Mia was less engaged here, more clingy. She answered questions in whispers and didn't ask to try any of the activities. In the car afterward, Daniel asked, "What did you think?" She shrugged. "It was okay." "Just okay?" "I liked the other school better, the one with the pouring." Friday's visit to Meadowbrook Preparatory was different from the start. The campus was beautiful, multiple buildings spread across manicured grounds with an actual gym and what looked like a theater. This wasn't just a preschool. It was kindergarten through 8th grade, a place kids grew up in. The admissions director, a polished woman named Dr. Sandra Vance, walked them through pristine hallways while explaining the school's philosophy of academic excellence and character development. Everything she said sounded practiced, perfect, like she'd given this exact tour 1,000 times. Our preschool program focuses on preparing students for our rigorous kindergarten curriculum, she explained. We emphasize early literacy, mathematical thinking, and social-emotional development. Mia held Daniel's hand and looked around with big eyes, but didn't say much. They observed a preschool class in session, 15 kids sitting in a circle while a teacher led them through a lesson about weather patterns. It was impressive, educational, and completely sterile. "What do you think?" Dr. Vance asked Daniel. "Would Meadowbrook be a good fit for your family?" He looked down at Mia, who was staring at a poster about the water cycle with polite disinterest. "I think we need to discuss it," he said. In the car, Mia was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "That school was too big." "Yeah? I don't want to go there. Can I go to the one with the pouring?" Daniel smiled. "Let me make some calls." That afternoon, he emailed Patricia Reeves and Thomas Miller, Riverside Montessori. Mia had chosen it, and he trusted her instincts more than any admissions director's sales pitch. The response came within an hour. Patricia would handle the enrollment paperwork. Mia could start the following Monday if they wanted to move that quickly. Daniel called Ms. Chen himself to confirm. "We'd love to have her," she said warmly. "Monday morning, 8:30. I'll have everything ready." After he hung up, he found Mia in her room, organizing her stuffed animals yet again. "Hey, Mia Bear, how do you feel about starting school on Monday?" She looked up, eyes wide. "Real school?" "Real school." She launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Thank you, Daddy." He held her and felt his throat get tight. This was what the money was for. Not big houses or fancy cars. This. Giving his daughter a chance to be a kid again. Saturday brought another email from Thomas Miller. "Daniel, Patricia tells me you've chosen Riverside. Excellent school. I've arranged for the first year's tuition and fees to be paid directly from the trust. Separately, I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss housing. My colleague Rebecca Torres is a realtor who specializes in family relocations. She's prepared a list of properties that might interest you. Would you be available to meet with her early next week?" Best, Thomas Daniel read it twice, then called Thomas directly. "I don't know if I'm ready to move," he said when Thomas answered. "We just got furniture. Mia's starting school. Everything's changing so fast." "I understand," Thomas said. "But I'd still like you to meet with Rebecca. Look at some properties. You don't have to make any decisions right away. Just see what's out there." "Why are you pushing this?" There was a pause. "Can I be honest with you?" "Please." "Your current apartment is 400 square feet. Your daughter doesn't have space to play. You're sleeping in the living room. The building has code violations going back 5 years. You deserve better, Daniel. Your daughter deserves better. I'm not pushing you to buy a mansion. I'm suggesting you live somewhere that has a bedroom for each of you and doesn't have roaches." Daniel flinched. He'd gotten good at killing roaches quietly so Mia wouldn't notice. "When does Rebecca want to meet? Tuesday afternoon work for you?" "Yeah, Tuesday's fine." Sunday at church, Karen Chen found him during coffee hour again. "You're coming to this picnic, right? Tomorrow afternoon, Riverside Park?" Daniel had completely forgotten. "I don't know. Mia starts school Monday, and I've got meetings. It's Sunday afternoon." No school, no meetings. Come, bring your daughter. Let her run around with other kids. Let yourself have a conversation that isn't about logistics. There was something in the way she said it that made Daniel stop making excuses. What time? 2 o'clock. Bring whatever you want to eat or don't. We always have too much food anyway. Monday morning, Mia woke up early, already excited. Daniel made her pancakes for breakfast, from scratch this time, not from a box, and she ate them while chattering about what school might be like. What if the other kids don't like me? They're going to love you. What if I don't know how to do the activities? That's what the teachers are for, to help you learn. What if I miss you? He crouched down next to her chair. Then you tell Ms. Chen, and she'll help you feel better, and I'll be right there at pickup time. 3 hours, that's all. You can do 3 hours. She nodded, trying to look brave. They arrived at Riverside at 8:20. Ms. Chen was waiting at the entrance, warm and welcoming. Good morning, Mia. Are you ready for your first day? Mia pressed closer to Daniel's leg. It's okay to be nervous, Ms. Chen said gently. Would you like to see where you'll put your things? She led them inside to a cubby with Mia's name written on a card in careful letters. Mia touched the letters like they were precious. That's my name. It is. This is your special spot. You can put your backpack here and your jacket if you have one. Mia carefully hung up her backpack, new, picked out just for this, bright pink with butterflies on it. Now, Chen said, there's a girl named Sophia who's been asking if we'd have any new friends joining us. Would you like to meet her? Mia looked at Daniel. He nodded encouragingly. Okay, she whispered. Ms. Chen took her hand gently and led her toward a small table where a girl about Mia's age was working with wooden blocks. Daniel followed at a distance, watching as Ms. Chen made introductions. As Sophia smiled and offered Mia some blocks, as his daughter slowly, cautiously, began to engage. After a few minutes, Ms. Chen walked back to where Daniel was standing. She's going to be fine, she said quietly. You can stay for a few more minutes if you'd like, but often it's easier if parents say goodbye and go. Otherwise, the separation gets harder. Daniel knew she was right. He approached the table where Mia was now building something with Sophia. Mia, I'm going to go now. I'll be back at 11:30 to pick you up, okay? She looked up, her face clouding with worry. You're leaving? Just for a few hours. You're going to have fun with Sophia and Ms. Chen. Her bottom lip trembled. Don't go. His heart cracked. Baby, I have to. But I promise I'll be back, 3 hours. That's just one movie and a little bit more. What if you don't come back? The question hit him in the chest. Of course she was afraid of that. Her mother had left and never come back. He knelt down so they were eye level. I will always come back for you, always. I promise. She studied his face, then nodded slowly. Okay. He kissed her forehead and left before she could change her mind, before he could change his mind. In the car, he gripped the steering wheel and took deep breaths. She'd be fine. She would be fine. He drove home and sat in the apartment for a while, the silence almost oppressive. When had he last been alone? Really alone, without Mia in the next room or asleep nearby? His phone buzzed. An email from Rebecca Torres with the subject line, Property Options, Preview. He opened it and found links to 7 different houses. He clicked through them one by one, each listing more impossible than the last. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car garage, hardwood floors, updated kitchen. 700,000, 800,000, 1.2 million. Houses where people had real lives, where kids grew up with yards and playrooms and space to breathe. He closed the laptop and checked the time. Only 20 minutes had passed. 2 hours and 40 minutes until pickup. He needed to move, to do something. He grabbed his keys and drove to the grocery store, bought ingredients for actual meals, found himself standing in the produce section trying to remember what vegetables Mia liked and what she'd actually eat. He filled the cart with more food than they could eat in a week, didn't even look at the total when he checked out. At 11:15, he was parked outside Riverside, waiting. Other parents started arriving around 11:20. At 11:30 exactly, the front door opened and kids started streaming out, running to their parents with the chaotic energy of small children who'd been sitting still for 3 hours. Mia emerged holding Miss Chen's hand, looking around. When she spotted Daniel, her face lit up and she ran to him. "Daddy!" I did pouring and I didn't spill any, and Sophia showed me how to do the pink tower, and we sang a song about days of the week, and she kept talking the whole drive home, telling him about every single thing she'd done, every person she'd met, every activity she'd tried. Daniel listened and felt something loosen in his chest. She was going to be okay. They were both going to be okay. That afternoon, they went to the picnic at Riverside Park. The church group had claimed a pavilion and several picnic tables, and there were at least 30 people there. Adults chatting, kids running wild, the smell of grilled food filling the air. Karen spotted them and waved. "Daniel, you made it!" She introduced them around. Names Daniel immediately forgot, faces that blurred together, but everyone was friendly and no one asked difficult questions. Mia found a group of kids playing tag and joined in without hesitation, her earlier shyness completely gone. Daniel ended up talking to a guy named Marcus who had a son about Mia's age and worked in IT. They talked about nothing important, favorite pizza places, the pain of teaching kids to ride bikes, whether it was ever actually going to stop raining, and it felt so normal that Daniel almost forgot about the $78 million sitting in a trust with his name on it. "How long have you been coming to the church?" Marcus asked. "Couple of years. My wife was more into it than I was. After she died, I kind of stopped for a while." "I'm sorry, man, that's rough." "Yeah, but we're doing okay now, getting back into routines." They watched their kids play for a while in comfortable silence. Then Marcus said, "You ever need someone to watch your daughter for a few hours? My wife and I are happy to do kid swaps. Our son would love a playmate." The offer was casual, probably didn't mean much to Marcus, but it hit Daniel harder than expected. Community, connection, people willing to help just because. "Thanks," he said. "I might take you up on that." Tuesday afternoon, Rebecca Torres met Daniel at a coffee shop near his apartment. She was maybe 35, professional but not stuffy, with a tablet full of property listings and a directness Daniel appreciated. "Thomas told me a bit about your situation," she said after they'd ordered coffee. "I'm not going to waste your time with houses that don't fit your needs. I'm thinking 3 to 4 bedrooms, good school district, move-in ready. Does that sound right?" "I guess. I've never bought a house before." "That's fine. That's what I'm here for." She pulled up her tablet. "I've got 5 properties I think are worth looking at. We can see all of them today if you have time. I have to pick up my daughter from school at 3:30. "Perfect. We can hit 3 or 4 before then. Let's start with the one that's closest." The first house was in a neighborhood called Elmhurst, about 15 minutes from Riverside, Montessori. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, small yard, built in the 70s and updated sometime in the last decade. The outside was plain but well-maintained. Inside, it smelled like fresh paint. The living room had good light, the kitchen was small but functional, the bedrooms were a decent size. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed money. "What do you think?" Rebecca asked. Daniel looked around, trying to imagine Mia here, trying to imagine himself here. "It's nice." "How much?" $475,000, under market value because the sellers need to close quickly. $475,000. For a house. A whole house. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." "Let's see the others." The second house was bigger. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, finished basement. It was beautiful and completely wrong. Too much space, too fancy, too far from anything familiar. The third house was a split level in a neighborhood called Fairwood. Good-sized yard, updated kitchen, 3 bedrooms upstairs, and a bonus room in the basement that could be a playroom or office. The backyard had an old swing set that the sellers were leaving. Daniel stood in the backyard looking at that swing set and something clicked into place. "This one," he said. Rebecca smiled. "Yeah? You want to see the other 2 first?" "No, this one feels right." "All right, let's talk numbers." They sat at the dining room table, a table that would be gone when the sellers left, but still. And Rebecca pulled up comps and mortgage calculators and started explaining things Daniel only half understood. "The asking price is $590,000, she said. "But I think we can get it for $560, maybe $550 if we move fast. The sellers are motivated." "And the trust will pay for it?" "According to Thomas, yes. You'll need to sign some forms, but the trust can handle the purchase outright if you want. No mortgage. No mortgage. Owning a house free and clear before he even moved in. What do I need to do? Make an offer. If they accept, we go into escrow, inspections, all the normal stuff. Could close in 30 days if everything goes smoothly. Daniel looked around the empty dining room, imagining it full. Imagining Mia running through these rooms, growing up here. Let's do it. Rebecca's smile widened. I'll draw up the offer tonight. We'll submit it tomorrow. You might be a homeowner by the end of the month. He picked up Mia from school in a daze, his head still spinning with square footage and escrow timelines and the surreal reality that he was buying a house. Daddy, you look funny, Mia said from her car seat. Funny how? Like you're thinking really hard. I am thinking really hard. What do you think about maybe moving to a new place? A bigger place? Her eyes got wide. Like a real house? Yeah, like a real house with a backyard and a swing set. A swing set? Yep. She was quiet for a moment, processing. Would I still get to go to my school? Yeah, baby. Same school. Then, okay. Can I have my own room? You'll have your own room. Can I paint it purple? If that's what you want. She smiled and went back to looking out the window. And Daniel drove home feeling like he was building something, not just buying a house, building a life. That night, after Mia was asleep, he pulled out his phone and looked at the photos he'd taken of the house, the kitchen where they'd eat breakfast, the backyard where Mia would play, the master bedroom where he'd sleep in an actual bedroom for the first time in over a year. He found himself pulling up other photos, old ones from before. Lena smiling at their tiny wedding, just them and a justice of the peace. Lena pregnant, her hand on her belly. Lena holding newborn Mia, exhausted and radiant. Lena who'd saved a stranger's child and built them a future and never lived to see any of this. His phone rang, startling him. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Is this Daniel Hayes? A woman's voice, professional, unfamiliar. Yeah, who's this? My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm a reporter with the Chronicle. I'm working on a story about the Whitmore family, and I was hoping to ask you some questions about your wife's bone marrow donation. Daniel's stomach dropped. Vanessa's warning echoed in his head. I don't have anything to say. I understand this is sensitive, but I said I don't have anything to say. Don't call this number again. He hung up, his hand shaking. The phone rang again immediately. Same number. He declined the call and blocked it, but the damage was done. Someone was digging. Someone knew. He texted Vanessa. A reporter just called asking about Lena and the Whitmores. Her response came within minutes. Don't talk to anyone. I'm alerting Thomas and the family's legal team. You may get more calls. Ignore all of them. Daniel sat on his new bed in his cramped living room and felt the first real stab of fear since this whole thing started. The money was one thing, but losing their privacy, having Lena's story exploited, having strangers pick apart their lives for a headline, that was something else entirely. He checked on Mia, found her sleeping peacefully with her elephant clutched close. She didn't know about any of this, didn't know about the money or the reporters or the complexity of what Lena had done. She just knew that things were getting better, that she had a new bed and a school she liked and a daddy who was home more and happier. Daniel wanted to keep it that way. He went back to the living room and texted Thomas. How bad is this reporter thing going to get? The response took a few minutes. We're handling it. The confidentiality agreements are solid, but be prepared for some attention. And Daniel, don't engage. No matter what they say or promise, don't talk to them. Daniel set his phone down and stared at the ceiling. This was the price, he realized. The money came with strings, with complications, with people who wanted to turn his wife's final gift into a story they could sell. But looking around the apartment, at Mia's new furniture, at the fridge full of food, at all the small ways their life had already changed, he knew it was worth it. Whatever came next, whatever challenges the money brought, it was worth it. For Mia. For the future Lena had built for them. He'd figure out how to protect it. The reporter didn't call back, but two others did over the next 3 days. Daniel recognized the pattern, the friendly tone, the expression of sympathy, the careful questions designed to get him talking before he realized what he was saying. He declined all of them, blocked the numbers, and felt his anxiety ratchet higher with each attempt. By Friday, he was jumping every time his phone rang. "You look stressed," Karen said when she saw him at church drop-in playgroup that afternoon. Mia was across the room building with blocks alongside Marcus's son, Tyler. "Just dealing with some stuff. Want to talk about it?" He almost said no automatically, but something stopped him. Karen had known Lena. She'd brought food and checked in and never pushed. Maybe that earned her some honesty. "People are asking questions about my wife, about something she did before she died, and I can't talk about it, but they keep calling." Karen's expression shifted to something protective. "Reporters? How'd you know?" "Because that's what reporters do. They find a story and they pick at it until they get what they want." She paused. "Are you okay? Is Mia okay?" "We're fine. It's just complicated. If you need anything, someone to watch Mia, a place to decompress, whatever, you let me know. Okay?" The offer settled something in his chest. "Thanks. I mean it." That evening, Rebecca called with news about the house. "They accepted your offer, $550,000, closing in 30 days. Congratulations, you're buying a house." Daniel sat down on his bed, the news hitting harder than he expected. "Just like that?" "Just like that. I'll email you the timeline and what to expect. Inspection is scheduled for next Wednesday. If everything checks out, you could have keys by mid-May." After she hung up, Daniel looked around the apartment. 1 month. In 1 month, they'd be somewhere else entirely. Somewhere with room to breathe. He found Mia in her room, organizing her books by color. "Hey, Mia Bear, remember that house we talked about? With the swing set?" She looked up. "Yeah? We're gonna live there. It's ours." Her mouth dropped open. "Really?" "Really. We'll move in about a month." She abandoned her books and threw her arms around him. "This is the best thing ever." He held her and tried to feel the excitement she felt instead of the low-grade terror that had been humming in his veins since the first reporter called. Saturday morning brought another email, this one from Thomas Miller with a subject line that made Daniel's stomach drop. "Media situation. Update." He opened it reluctantly. "Daniel, the Whitmore family's legal team has identified the source of the media inquiries. A former hospital employee accessed sealed records and leaked information to several news outlets. The individual has been terminated and is facing legal action. The family is taking aggressive steps to prevent publication of any story related to Lena's donation or the trust. However, I need you to be prepared for the possibility that something may still surface. If that happens, the trust has resources to help manage the situation. We can provide legal counsel, PR support, whatever you need. The most important thing is that you do not engage with the media under any circumstances. I know this is stressful. I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Please call if you have questions." Thomas Daniel read it 3 times, trying to parse the legal language and professional calm for what it actually meant. Someone had violated Lena's privacy, violated their privacy, and now strangers were trying to turn it into content. He called Thomas directly. "Daniel?" Thomas answered on the first ring. "I was expecting your call. How bad is this really?" "Honestly? Hard to say. The Chronicle killed the story after our attorneys reached out. Turns out they didn't want the legal headache. But the reporter who contacted you is freelance. She might try to shop it elsewhere. And if she does? We fight it. The confidentiality agreements are ironclad. Any publication would be opening themselves up to massive liability. Most outlets won't touch it. But some might. Some might, Thomas admitted. Look, the Whitmores have dealt with this kind of thing before. They know how to protect their privacy, and by extension, they're protecting yours. Try not to spiral about it. Easy for you to say. Fair enough. How's the house situation? Rebecca says you're in escrow. The subject change was obvious, but Daniel went with it. Yeah, closing next month. That's great. Really, your daughter must be excited. She is. I'm just trying to keep up. You're doing fine, Daniel. Better than fine. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're handling this remarkably well. After they hung up, Daniel sat with that for a while. Handling it well. Was he? From the inside, it felt like barely controlled chaos, like he was one crisis away from everything falling apart. But Mia was thriving. She loved school, was making friends, came home every day with stories and art projects and new words she'd learned. That had to count for something. The following Tuesday, Vanessa called with a different kind of update. The permanent cards arrived at my office. Want to pick them up, or should I mail them? I can come get them. Also, I wanted to mention you've been using the temporary card quite a bit. That's fine, that's what it's for. But the trust managers are going to want to discuss your spending patterns at some point. Just something to be aware of. Daniel felt defensive immediately. I'm not buying yachts. It's been groceries and furniture, and I know. I've seen the statements. You're being completely reasonable. But they're going to want to help you create a budget, set up long-term financial planning. It's part of their job. A budget for $78 million. A budget for making sure that $78 million is still there in 20 years when your daughter needs college tuition. Trust me, they've seen people burn through more in less time. He picked up the cards that afternoon. Real ones this time. Heavy black plastic with his name embossed in silver. A debit card and a credit card, both connected to accounts with more money than he'd ever imagined having. Vanessa handed them over in a small envelope with instructions for activation. Try not to lose these, she said with a slight smile. Replacing them is a pain. I'll guard them with my life. Also, Thomas wanted me to remind you about the Whitmores. They're still hoping to meet you and Mia when you're ready. Daniel had been trying not to think about that. I don't know if I'm ready. That's fine. There's no rush. But from what I understand, Eleanor, the daughter your wife saved, she's been asking about you. She wants to say thank you. The thought of meeting this girl, this young woman whose life Lena had saved, made Daniel's chest tight. What would I even say to her? Maybe nothing. Maybe you just meet each other and that's enough. Vanessa leaned back in her chair. Look, I'm not going to push you, but I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've learned that carrying gratitude unexpressed is its own kind of burden, for both sides. He left the bank with the cards in his wallet and Vanessa's words in his head. Wednesday was the house inspection. Rebecca met Daniel there along with a guy named Mike who spent 3 hours going through every inch of the property with a flashlight and a clipboard. Daniel followed them around, learning more than he ever wanted to know about roof conditions and foundation cracks and the importance of proper drainage. Overall, it's solid, Mike concluded. A few minor issues. Some electrical outlets need updating. The HVAC system is older, but nothing major. You're getting a good house. Rebecca smiled at Daniel. See? Told you this was a good one. After they left, Daniel walked through the empty rooms alone, trying to imagine their furniture here, their life here. The master bedroom had good light and space for an actual dresser. Mia's room was smaller but had a window overlooking the backyard. The third bedroom could be an office or a playroom or just storage. He stood in the kitchen and thought about making breakfast here, about Mia doing homework at the counter, about all the mundane moments that would fill this space and make it theirs. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, this is Eleanor Whitmore. I got your number from Thomas Miller. I hope that's okay. Daniel stared at the message, his heart rate picking up. Another text appeared. I've been wanting to reach out for a long time. Your wife saved my life. I don't know if you want to hear from me, but I needed you to know that I think about her every day, that I'm grateful for every single day I've gotten because of her. He sat down on the floor, his back against the kitchen cabinets, and read the messages again. A third text. I'm not trying to intrude. If you'd rather I not contact you, I understand. But if you ever want to talk, or if there's anything I can do for you and your daughter, please let me know. You have my number now. Daniel's hand shook as he typed. Thank you for reaching out. I'm not ready to meet yet, but I appreciate the message. The response came quickly. I understand, whenever you're ready, or never, whatever you need. He put his phone away and sat in the empty kitchen of his almost house and cried. Not the desperate, drowning grief of the first months after Lena died. Something different. Something that felt like release. Eleanor Whitmore was alive because of Lena, was out there living and studying and trying to make the world better because Lena had given her the chance. That meant something. It had to mean something. When he picked up Mia from school that afternoon, she was bubbling with excitement about a field trip to a pumpkin patch in the fall. Ms. Chen says we'll get to pick our own pumpkins and learn about how they grow and everything. Can I go, please? Of course you can go. Tyler's going too, and Sophia. It's going to be so fun. In the car, she kept talking about the field trip, about her friends, about the project they were doing with leaves and glue. Normal kid stuff. The kind of stuff Daniel had worried she'd never get to experience. That evening, Marcus called. "Hey man, Tyler's been asking if Mia can come over for a play date. You free Saturday afternoon?" Daniel's instinct was to say no, to keep Mia close, but he caught himself. Yeah, that works. My titopus is Schwarzel. Great. Bring her over around 2. And hey, if you want to stay and hang out, you're welcome. Or if you need a couple hours to yourself, we're good with that too. I might take you up on the time to myself. Do it. Every parent needs a break sometimes. Saturday, Daniel dropped Mia off at Marcus's house, a modest ranch in a neighborhood not that different from where they'd be moving. Marcus's wife, Angela, answered the door with Tyler bouncing behind her. "Mia, come see my Legos." Mia looked at Daniel for permission. He nodded, and she disappeared into the house with Tyler. "She'll be fine," Angela said. "We'll feed them lunch, let them run around in the backyard. Pick her up around 5? That works. Thank you. Hey, we all need village. This is what we do." Daniel drove away feeling strange and unmoored. 3 hours with nothing he had to do, nowhere he had to be. When was the last time he'd had that? He ended up at a bookstore, wandering the aisles without purpose. He picked up a thriller, put it back, looked at the self-help section, and felt simultaneously drawn to and repelled by all the books about grief and single parenting and building your life after loss. In the end, he bought 3 picture books for Mia and a collection of essays about fatherhood for himself. At the register, the total came to $47, and he didn't even flinch. He got coffee at the place next door, sat by the window, and opened the essay collection. The first piece was about a father teaching his daughter to ride a bike, about letting go and trusting she wouldn't fall. Daniel read it twice and felt something crack open in his chest. He'd been holding on so tight. To Mia, to his grief, to his fear that everything good would disappear if he relaxed his grip for even a second. But maybe that wasn't what Mia needed. Maybe she needed him to let her ride the bike, to trust that she'd figure it out, to be there when she fell, but not prevent every fall before it happened. When he picked her up at 5, Mia was covered in dirt and grinning. "We played in the sprinkler and built a fort and had mac and cheese for lunch, and Tyler shared his cars with me." "Sounds like you had fun." "The best fun. Can we come back?" Angela smiled from the doorway. "Anytime, seriously." Driving home, Mia chattered about every detail of her afternoon. Daniel listened and felt grateful for Marcus and Angela, for this community that was slowly forming around them, for the village they were building. Sunday after church, Karen pulled him aside. "I heard about the house. Congratulations." "Thanks. We close in a couple weeks." "That's wonderful. You'll be in the Fairwood area?" "Yeah, how'd you know?" "Small world. We're about 10 minutes from there. We should get the kids together once you're settled." Another connection. Another thread binding them to this new life. Monday morning, Thomas called. "The final walkthrough is scheduled for May 10th. If everything looks good, you'll close on the 11th. Keys the same day. Rebecca will coordinate all of it." "That's soon?" "That's what you wanted, isn't it? To move forward?" Yeah, it is." "Good. Also, I wanted to discuss something else. The trust managers have put together a comprehensive financial plan. We'd like to schedule a meeting to go over it with you. Nothing scary, just laying out the structure for the next few years. Budgets, investment strategies, educational funding for Mia. Would next Thursday work?" Daniel felt that familiar flutter of anxiety. "Another meeting. Last big one for a while, I promise. After this, it's mostly just quarterly check-ins unless something major changes." "Okay, Thursday works." That week passed in a blur of routine and anticipation. School drop-off and pickup, grocery shopping, playground visits, dinner and bath time and bedtime stories. The rhythms of normal life, except nothing felt entirely normal because everything was still changing. Wednesday night, Mia asked a question Daniel had been dreading. "Daddy, why don't I have a grandma and grandpa?" They were reading before bed, and the book was about a girl visiting her grandparents' farm. Mia had been quiet through most of it. Daniel set the book down carefully. "You do have grandparents. Mommy's parents live far away in Arizona. How come they never visit?" Because they blamed him for Lena's death. Because they'd wanted her to leave him years ago, thought he wasn't good enough for her. And when she got sick, they'd made it clear they thought he'd failed her. Because the last time he'd seen them was at the funeral, and the last thing Lena's mother had said to him was, "You should have saved her." "They're just far away, baby. It's hard for them to travel. Can we visit them?" "Maybe someday." Mia accepted this with the easy trust of a 4-year-old. "Okay. Can you keep reading?" He finished the book, kissed her goodnight, and went to the living room with his phone. He pulled up the last text exchange with Lena's mother from 8 months ago, a stilted conversation about Mia's birthday that had ended with Janet saying they'd send a card. They had. No gift, just a card with both their signatures and nothing personal. He typed, "Janet, I wanted to let you know that Mia and I are doing well. We're moving to a new house next month. Mia starts kindergarten in the fall. She's growing up so fast. I thought you might want to know." He stared at the message for a long time before deleting it unsent. Some bridges stayed burned. Thursday's meeting with the trust managers was in the same office where he'd first met Thomas. This time there were 3 other people, 2 men and a woman, all in expensive suits, all carrying tablets and folders. Thomas made introductions. "Daniel, this is Stephen Park, head of investment strategy, Laura Chen, estate planning, and David Morrison, tax services." They shook hands and sat around a massive conference table. Stephen pulled up a presentation on the screen at the front of the room. "We're going to walk you through the comprehensive plan we've developed," he said. "Feel free to interrupt with questions at any time." The next 2 hours were a masterclass in financial planning that made Daniel's head spin. Investment portfolios, tax shelters, educational trusts, estate planning if anything happened to him. They'd thought of everything, planned for every contingency. The monthly distribution of $15,000 would be supplemented by separate funds for housing, medical expenses, education, and what Laura called quality of life improvements. Everything was structured to protect the principal while allowing him to actually live on the money. "We've also set up a college fund for Mia," Laura said, pulling up another spreadsheet. "Fully funded through graduate school if she chooses to pursue it. Currently valued at just over $2 million. $2 million, Daniel repeated. For college. It's aggressive, yes, but considering inflation and rising education costs, we want to ensure she has options. If she doesn't use it all, the remainder can be folded back into her inheritance." Her inheritance. The idea that Mia would inherit millions was still incomprehensible. Stephen leaned forward. "I know this is a lot, but the bottom line is this. You don't have to worry about money. Not for yourself, not for your daughter. Our job is to make sure this trust grows and provides for your family for generations. Your job is to live your life." After the meeting, Thomas walked Daniel to the elevator. "You okay? You look a little pale." "I just sat through a 2-hour meeting about how to manage more money than I can conceptualize. I'm not sure what okay means anymore." Thomas smiled. "For what it's worth, you're handling this better than most. I've seen lottery winners blow through hundreds of millions in 5 years. You're being thoughtful and careful. That matters." In the elevator, descending 22 floors back to street level, Daniel caught his reflection in the polished doors. He looked the same as he had 2 weeks ago. Same face, same cheap jacket, same guy who used to worry about $17 lasting until Friday. But everything else had changed. He picked up Mia from school and took her to the park, pushed her on the swings until his arms were tired, bought her ice cream from the truck even though it was almost dinner time. "This is the best day," she said, chocolate ice cream smeared across her face. "Yeah, baby, it really is." That night, after she was asleep, he pulled out his phone and looked at the unsent message to Janet again. This time, he rewrote it. "Janet, I wanted you to know that Mia is thriving. She's in a wonderful school, has friends, is happy. I'm doing better too. I know things have been hard between us, but she's your granddaughter. If you ever want to be part of her life, the door is open." He sent it before he could talk himself out of it. The response came the next morning. "I'm glad to hear she's well. Perhaps we can arrange a video call sometime." It wasn't much, but it was something. The final week before closing passed in a flurry of packing and planning. Daniel hadn't realized how much stuff they'd accumulated in the tiny apartment until he started putting it in boxes. Most of it was Mia's, toys and books and art projects and clothes she'd already outgrown. On the morning of May 11th, Rebecca met them at the title company's office. The closing took an hour of signing papers Daniel barely read, of watching numbers move on screens, of shaking hands with the sellers. A nice couple retiring to Florida who seemed genuinely happy that a family with a young child would be living in their house. When it was done, Rebecca handed him a set of keys. "Congratulations, you're officially a homeowner." Mia bounced in her seat. Can we go see it? Can we go right now?" They drove to the house, their house, and Daniel unlocked the front door with hands that shook slightly. The sellers had left it clean and empty, ready for them. Mia ran through the rooms, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. "This is my room. This is where my bed will go. Daddy, can we paint it purple?" "We'll paint it whatever color you want." She kept running, exploring every corner, opening every closet, testing every light switch. Daniel followed more slowly, taking it all in. This was theirs. This house, this space, this future. In the backyard, Mia climbed onto the old swing set and pumped her legs, going higher and higher. "Daddy, watch me!" He watched, his daughter, alive and happy and safe, swinging in the backyard of a house they owned. A house Lena had made possible. A future she'd built with her last breath. "I see you, baby," he called. "You're flying." And for the first time since she died, Daniel felt like maybe, just maybe, they really were going to be okay. The movers arrived at 8 the next morning with a truck that seemed too big for the amount of furniture they actually owned. Daniel watched them load up the beds, the dresser, the couch, boxes of kitchen supplies and toys and clothes, and realized their entire life fit into maybe a quarter of the truck's capacity. "Light load today," one of the movers said cheerfully. "We'll have you set up in the new place by noon." Mia rode with Daniel in the car, clutching her elephant and watching out the window as they left the apartment building for the last time. She was quiet, which wasn't like her. "You okay, baby? Are we coming back?" "No, we live in the new house now." "What if I forget Mommy?" The question landed like a fist to his chest. Daniel pulled over into a parking lot, put the car in park, and turned to look at his daughter. "What do you mean?" "We lived there with Mommy, before she got sick. What if I can't remember her if we're not there anymore?" Daniel unbuckled his seatbelt and reached back to take her small hand. "Mia Bear, you're not going to forget Mommy. She's not in that apartment. She's in here." He touched her chest, right over her heart. "And in here." He tapped her forehead gently. "Moving to a new house doesn't change that. Promise?" "I promise. And we have pictures, remember? And all her things we packed up. Her favorite mug, her books, that blanket she always used. We're taking all of that with us." Mia nodded slowly, her eyes watery. "Okay. And you know what? I think Mommy would be really excited about the new house. About your purple room and the backyard and the swing set. She'd want us to be happy there." "She would?" "Absolutely." They sat there for a minute longer, Mia's hand in his, before he started the car again, and they continued to the house that was waiting for them. The movers worked efficiently, placing furniture where Daniel directed, stacking boxes in appropriate rooms. By early afternoon, the truck was empty, and Daniel was signing paperwork and handing over a tip that probably would have seemed insane to him a month ago. Then it was just him and Mia, standing in the middle of their new living room surrounded by boxes. "Where do we start?" he asked. "My room! We need to make my room perfect." They spent the afternoon unpacking Mia's things. Her clothes went in the dresser, her books on the shelves built into her headboard, her stuffed animals arranged carefully on her bed. Daniel hung up the drawings she'd brought home from school, found places for her toys, set up the small table where she liked to color. By dinner time, her room looked lived in, loved. "Can we paint it this weekend?" she asked, standing in the doorway and surveying her domain. "We can paint it this weekend." They ordered pizza for dinner, pepperoni, Mia's favorite, and ate it sitting on the floor of the living room because Daniel hadn't unpacked plates yet. The house was quiet except for their voices. No sounds from neighbors through thin walls, no restaurant smells from downstairs. Just space and silence and possibility. That night, Mia asked if she could sleep in her new room. "You sure? First night in a new place can be a little scary." "I want to try." He tucked her in, read her 2 stories instead of 1, left her door open and the hallway light on. When he checked on her 20 minutes later, she was asleep, her elephant tucked under her arm, looking peaceful. Daniel unpacked for another hour before exhaustion hit. He made up his own bed in the master bedroom, his bedroom, not the living room, an actual bedroom with a door that closed, and lay down in the darkness. The house settled around him with unfamiliar sounds. The hum of the HVAC system, the creak of wood adjusting to temperature changes, a neighborhood dog barking in the distance. He thought he'd have trouble sleeping, that the newness would keep him awake. Instead, he was out within minutes. He woke up at 7 to Mia standing next to his bed, already dressed. "Daddy, can we go explore the neighborhood?" They walked for nearly an hour, Mia pointing out everything she saw. Other kids playing in yards, dogs on leashes, a park 2 blocks away with newer equipment than the one they'd been going to. They passed a coffee shop, a small library branch, a family-owned grocery store. "I like it here," Mia announced. "It feels nice." "Yeah, baby, it does." Over the next week, they settled in. Daniel unpacked boxes, hung pictures, made the house feel like theirs. He set up the 3rd bedroom as an office, even though he wasn't sure what he'd use it for. Put Lena's books on the shelves, her favorite blanket folded over the back of the couch. Small things that kept her present without making the whole house a shrine. Karen and Marcus both stopped by with housewarming gifts. Karen brought a plant and a casserole. Marcus brought beer and offered to help with anything that needed fixing. "The basement light was flickering," Daniel mentioned. "Let me take a look." They spent an hour in the basement, Marcus showing Daniel how to replace the ballast in the fluorescent fixture, talking about nothing important. It felt good, normal, like building the kind of friendships that came from proximity and shared circumstances rather than necessity. Thursday afternoon, Daniel got a call from Thomas. "How's the new place?" "Good, really good. We're settling in." "Glad to hear it. Listen, I wanted to follow up on something. The Whitmores are hosting a small gathering next month, family and close friends. Eleanor asked if you and Mia might be willing to attend. Completely low pressure, no media, just a chance for her to meet you both in person." Daniel's stomach tightened. He'd been avoiding thinking about this, knowing it was coming but not ready to face it. "I don't know." "I understand, but Eleanor's been asking. She wrote you a letter, actually. I can send it if you're open to reading it." "A letter?" "She wanted to tell you what your wife's gift meant to her, what it's meant to her family. I think it might help to read it." No obligation to respond or attend anything. Just consider it. After they hung up, Daniel paced the house for 20 minutes before texting back. Send the letter. It arrived by email an hour later, a scanned handwritten note on simple stationery. Dear Mr. Hayes, I've started this letter 100 times and never found the right words. How do you thank someone for the gift of life? How do you explain to a man who lost his wife that her sacrifice gave you everything? I was 14 when I got sick. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The doctor said I needed a bone marrow transplant, but no one in my family was a match. We searched the registry for months. I was getting sicker. We were running out of time. Then they found her. Your wife. A perfect match. Anonymous donor who asked for nothing. I remember the day of the transplant. I was scared, but I remember my mom telling me that somewhere out there, a stranger cared enough to save me, that I had to fight because someone I'd never met had given me a chance. I'm 21 now. I'm alive because of Lena. I graduated high school early. I'm studying biology at Stanford because I want to understand what saved me. I started a nonprofit to register more bone marrow donors because I know there are other kids out there who need what I needed. I get to have this life because your wife was kind to a stranger. My parents set up the trust because they wanted to give back somehow, to make sure that even though Lena couldn't accept their gratitude directly, her family would be taken care of. I know it probably feels complicated. I know there's grief and loss mixed up in all of this, but I wanted you to know that every day I'm alive is because of her. Every good thing I get to do, every person I get to help, every moment I get to spend with my family, it exists because of Lena. I hope that means something to you. I hope it's not painful to hear. If you ever want to meet or talk or just hear about the life I'm living because of your wife, I'm here. But if you don't, I understand that too. Thank you for letting me say this. Thank you for sharing her with the world, even though I'm sure the cost was unbearable. With deep gratitude, Eleanor Daniel read it 3 times, tears streaming down his face. He sat at his new kitchen table in his new house and cried in a way he hadn't let himself cry since the funeral. Not the hollow grief of the early days, but something else. Something that felt like release. Mia found him there 20 minutes later, his face still wet. "Daddy, why are you sad?" He pulled her onto his lap. "I'm not sad, baby. I'm just feeling a lot of things." "About Mommy?" "Yeah, about Mommy." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "It's okay to miss her." "I know. Thank you, Mia Bear." That night, after Mia was asleep, Daniel typed a response. "Eleanor, thank you for your letter. It meant more than I can explain. Lena would be so happy to know you're alive and doing good things in the world." That was who she was, always trying to help people, always thinking about others before herself. "I'm not ready to meet yet, but maybe soon. For now, just knowing that she saved you, that her decision meant something this big, it helps. Take care of yourself. And thank you for remembering her. Daniel." He sent it before he could overthink it, then sat in the quiet house and felt something shift. Not closure, grief didn't work like that, but acceptance, maybe. Understanding that Lena's final gift had been bigger than he'd realized, that it rippled out in ways he was only beginning to see. The following Saturday, they painted Mia's room. Daniel had no idea what he was doing, but Karen's husband Mike came over to help, showing him how to tape edges properly, how to roll paint evenly, how to avoid drips. Mia had chosen a purple that was almost aggressively bright. Mike laughed when he saw it. "Kid knows what she wants. I respect that." By evening, the room was transformed. Mia stood in the doorway, covered in purple paint splatters, grinning. "It's perfect." And it was. Completely imperfect and entirely hers. June arrived with warm weather and the end of Mia's first year at Riverside Montessori. On the last day, Ms. Chen pulled Daniel aside. "I wanted to tell you how much growth I've seen in Mia this year. When she started, she was shy, hesitant. Now she's confident, engaged, a leader in the classroom. You should be very proud." "Thank you. The school has been amazing for her." "We're lucky to have her. See you in the fall?" "Definitely." That afternoon, Mia brought home a folder of her work from the year. Drawings, writing exercises, math worksheets. Daniel spread them out on the kitchen table and looked at the progression, from tentative scribbles in April to confident letters and numbers by June. "You learned so much," he said. "I love school. Can I go to summer camp?" He'd gotten the flyer weeks ago but hadn't thought seriously about it. Now he pulled it from the pile of mail and looked at the details. 2 weeks in July, nature exploration and arts and crafts and field trips. "You want to go?" "Yes, Sophia's going and Tyler's going and it sounds so fun." "Then you're going." Her squeal of joy could have shattered glass. The first week of July, Marcus invited them to a 4th of July barbecue at his house. Daniel almost said no. Crowd still made him anxious, but Mia begged and he gave in. The backyard was packed with families from church and the neighborhood. Kids ran through sprinklers while adults stood around the grill talking. Daniel found himself in a conversation with 3 other single parents, swapping stories about the chaos of raising kids alone. "How long have you been on your own?" a woman named Rachel asked. "About 18 months. My wife died when Mia was 3. The group made sympathetic noises. Rachel nodded. "I've been divorced for 2 years. It's brutal, isn't it? Some days I don't know how I'm still standing." "Yeah, but it gets easier, sort of." They talked about school challenges and bedtime routines and the impossible task of being both parents at once. Daniel felt understood in a way he hadn't expected. These people got it. They knew the weight. As the sun set and fireworks started in the distance, Mia sat in Daniel's lap and watched the sky light up. "This is the best day," she whispered. He held her close and thought about all the best days they'd had since that morning at the bank, about how many more were coming. In late July, Eleanor texted again. "My family's gathering is next Saturday. I know you said you weren't ready, but the invitation still stands. No pressure. Just wanted you to know the option is there." Daniel looked at the message for a long time. Then he showed it to Mia. "There's someone who wants to meet us. Someone Mommy helped a long time ago." "What did Mommy do?" "She helped save this person's life when they were very sick." Mia's eyes went wide. Mommy saved someone? She did. Can we meet them? Daniel took a breath. Do you want to? Yeah, I want to meet someone Mommy saved. He texted back. We'll come. Just for a little while. Let me know the details. The response was immediate. Thank you. I can't wait to meet you both. The gathering was at the Whitmore family home, which turned out to be an estate in the hills outside the city. Daniel drove through gates and up a winding driveway, his heart hammering. This place is huge, Mia said, pressed against the window. A valet took his car, an experience so foreign Daniel almost laughed, and someone directed them to the backyard where maybe 30 people mingled on a sprawling lawn. Thomas appeared almost immediately. Daniel, you made it! Come on, Eleanor's been watching for you. She was standing near a fountain, talking to an older couple who Daniel recognized from his Google searches as her parents. When she saw him approaching, her whole face lit up. Mr. Hayes? She crossed the lawn quickly, her hand extended. I'm Eleanor. She was beautiful and alive and looking at him with an expression that made his throat tight. Daniel's fine, and this is Mia. Eleanor crouched down to Mia's level. Hi, Mia. I've heard so much about you. My daddy says my mommy saved you. She did. She saved my life. Were you really sick? Very sick. But your mom helped make me better, and now I get to do all kinds of things I couldn't do before. I get to go to school and help other people and meet wonderful people like you. Mia studied her seriously. Mommy was the best. I believe it. Eleanor's parents approached. Marcus and Catherine Whitmore, gracious and warm and clearly emotional. Catherine's eyes were wet when she shook Daniel's hand. We can never thank you enough, she said. Your wife gave us our daughter back. Daniel didn't know what to say. She would be glad to know Eleanor's doing so well. They talked for nearly an hour. Eleanor told them about her nonprofit, about the thousands of people who'd registered as donors because of her work. Her father talked about the trust, about wanting to ensure Lena's sacrifice meant something lasting. Her mother just kept looking at Mia like she was precious. Would you like to see the garden? Eleanor asked Mia. We have butterflies. Mia looked at Daniel for permission. He nodded, and she took Eleanor's hand without hesitation. Watching them walk away together, his daughter and the girl his wife had saved, Daniel felt something break open in his chest. Not grief, something else, something that felt like purpose. Catherine stood beside him, following his gaze. She's wonderful, your daughter. Thank you. Lena must have been an incredible person to raise such a kind child. She really was. They stayed for 2 hours. Mia played with Eleanor and some of the other kids, ate fancy appetizers, got completely spoiled by everyone she met. Daniel talked to the Whitmores and their friends, people who treated him like he belonged there even though he felt completely out of place. When they finally left, Mia fell asleep in the car within minutes. Daniel drove home in the gathering dusk, thinking about everything that had led to this moment, about Lena's choice to donate, about the trust and the money and the life they were building, about Eleanor, alive and thriving, because his wife had been selfless enough to help a stranger. Back home, he carried Mia inside and tucked her into her purple room. She stirred slightly. Daddy? Yeah, baby? Eleanor was nice. I'm glad Mommy saved her. Me too. Mommy did a really good thing. The best thing. After she fell back asleep, Daniel walked through the house, turning off lights. He stopped in his office, looked at Lena's books on the shelf, her blanket folded carefully nearby. His phone buzzed, a text from Eleanor. Thank you for coming today. Meeting you and Mia meant the world to me. Your wife's gift gave me a life. I hope I'm using it well. Daniel typed back. You are. She'd be proud of you. Another text. I hope we can stay in touch. I'd love to watch Mia grow up if that's okay with you. I'd like that. He sat down at the desk and pulled out a notebook, one of the empty ones Lena had bought years ago and never used. He'd been carrying it around for weeks, not sure what to do with it. Now he opened to the first page and started writing. Dear Mia, someday you're going to be older and you're going to have questions about everything that happened after your mom died, about the money and the house and how our life changed so fast. I want you to understand the whole story. Your mom saved a girl's life. She didn't do it for reward or recognition. She did it because someone needed help, and she could help. That was who she was. He wrote for an hour telling Mia everything about the card, the bank, the trust, about Vanessa and Thomas and all the people who'd helped them navigate this new life, about Eleanor and the gathering and what it meant to meet someone whose life existed because of Lena's choice. He wrote about grief and fear and the terror of suddenly having everything when you'd gotten used to having nothing, about learning to accept help and build community and believe in a future that felt bigger than survival. He wrote until his hand cramped, filling page after page with the truth of their story. The next morning, Mia came running into the kitchen where Daniel was making breakfast. "Daddy, can Eleanor come over sometime? I want to show her my room." "I think she'd like that. Want me to ask her?" "Yes." He texted Eleanor that afternoon. She responded within minutes. "I would love that. Name the day." They settled on the following Saturday. Eleanor arrived with a gift, a children's book about butterflies. "I heard you like them," she said to Mia. "I love them. Daddy, can we read it now?" Daniel made coffee while Eleanor and Mia sat in the living room reading together. He watched from the kitchen this young woman who existed because of Lena, bonding with the daughter Lena had left behind. After Mia went to play in the backyard, Eleanor joined Daniel at the kitchen table. "This is a beautiful house," she said. "It's because of your family, because of the trust. It's because of your wife. Everything good in my life traces back to her choice." Eleanor looked out the window at Mia on the swing set. "I know it's complicated for you, the money, all of it, but I hope you know how grateful we are, how grateful I am. Meeting you helps. Seeing what Lena's choice meant, it makes the rest of it easier to accept." Eleanor pulled out her phone. "Can I show you something?" She pulled up photos from her nonprofit events. Hundreds of people at donor registration drives. Teenagers getting cheek swabs. Families celebrating transplant anniversaries. "We've registered over 15,000 new donors in the last 3 years," she said. 3 of them have already donated and saved lives. 3 more people who get to live because your wife inspired all of this." Daniel's throat got tight. "She'd love that. I know it doesn't replace what you lost. Nothing could. But I wanted you to know the ripples keep spreading." After Eleanor left, Mia asked, "Can she be like my aunt, since I don't have aunts?" "I think she'd like that." That night, Mia fell asleep clutching the butterfly book. Daniel sat in his office and added more to the letter he was writing, about Eleanor and connection, and the strange beauty of watching grief transform into something that looked like purpose. August brought Mia's 5th birthday. Daniel threw her a party at the house, the first real party she'd ever had. He invited kids from school, Marcus and Angela and Tyler, Karen and her family. He rented a bouncy house and bought a ridiculous amount of pizza and let Mia pick out the biggest cake at the bakery. Eleanor came, bringing a gift that made Mia scream with joy, a microscope for kids because she'd mentioned wanting to see things up close like the one at school. "This is too much," Daniel said. "It's not nearly enough," Eleanor replied. "Let her explore." He watched 20 kids run through his backyard, eating cake and playing games and making the kind of chaos that meant joy. He watched Mia in the middle of it all, confident and happy, and so different from the scared 4-year-old who'd clung to him at school drop-off just 4 months ago. Karen found him standing by the fence, watching. "You doing okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about how much has changed." "It's good change, though. Look at her. She's thriving." "I know. Sometimes I feel guilty about it. About being happy when Lena isn't here to see it." Karen put her hand on his arm. "She's seeing it, and she's glad you're both happy. That's what she would have wanted." That evening, after everyone left and Mia was in bed exhausted and content, Daniel sat on his back porch and looked at the stars. His phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Quarterly trust review is coming up next month. Just routine check-in. Hope you're doing well." He was doing well, better than well. They were building a life. September came with Mia starting kindergarten. The first day, she walked into the classroom without looking back, completely confident. Daniel stood in the hallway with the other parents and felt a mix of pride and bittersweetness. She didn't need him the way she used to. She was growing up. That afternoon, he met with Thomas for the quarterly review. The numbers were good, the trust had grown, investments were performing well, everything was on track. "You're being smart with the distributions," Thomas said. Living well, but not excessively. The managers are pleased. I'm trying to do it right. For Mia. You are. Trust me. I've seen people in your situation make every possible mistake. You're not making them. On the drive home, Daniel thought about that, about doing it right, about honoring Lena's gift by building something stable and good. He stopped at the store and bought flowers, purple ones, Mia's favorite. At home, he put them in Lena's favorite vase and set them on the kitchen table. For you, he said to the empty room. Thank you. For everything. October brought the pumpkin patch field trip Mia had been excited about since spring. Daniel volunteered to chaperone, spent the day watching kindergartners run through a corn maze and pick pumpkins twice their size. On the hay ride back to the buses, Mia sat next to him, her pumpkin on her lap. This is the best day, she said. You say that a lot, you know. Because lots of days are the best day now. That simple statement hit him harder than it should have. She was right. Lots of days were good now, not perfect. They still had hard moments. Days when Mia cried for her mom, or Daniel felt the weight of single parenthood crushing him. But the good days outnumbered the bad ones now. That night he added more to the letter he was writing to Mia, about resilience and healing and the way life could surprise you with joy even after devastating loss. November brought Thanksgiving. Karen invited them to join her family, and Daniel said yes. They sat at a table with 15 other people, eating too much food and listening to children's laughter echo through the house. When it came time to go around the table saying what they were thankful for, Mia said, I'm thankful for my daddy and my new house and Eleanor and my school and my friends and my purple room. When it was Daniel's turn, he said simply, I'm thankful for second chances. Karen reached over and squeezed his hand. December brought the first anniversary of the day Daniel had walked into that bank. He almost didn't notice until he checked his phone and saw the date. 1 year ago, he'd been desperate and broke and out of options. He'd been carrying $17 and Mia and a card he didn't understand. Now they had a house and a future and a life that felt solid. He texted Vanessa. 1 year since I walked into your bank. Thank you for everything. Her response came quickly. Best client meeting I've ever had. Proud of you, Daniel. He texted Thomas. Thanks for putting up with all my questions this year. That's what I'm here for. You're doing great. Lena would be proud. He texted Eleanor. Thank you for letting us be part of your life. Thank you for letting me be part of yours. See you soon? Definitely. That night, Mia asked if they could decorate for Christmas. Already? It's only December 3rd. Please, I love Christmas. They spent the weekend transforming the house. Lights on the porch, a tree in the living room that Mia helped decorate with ornaments both new and old. Daniel unpacked the box of Lena's Christmas decorations, the ones he'd been storing for years, and let Mia choose which ones to use. She found Lena's favorite ornament, a glass angel with delicate wings. Can this go on the tree? Of course. She hung it carefully on a branch right at her eye level. Now Mommy's part of Christmas too. Daniel had to walk away for a minute, his eyes burning. Christmas morning, Mia woke him up at 6:30, bouncing with excitement. They opened presents in their pajamas, books and toys and clothes, and one big present Daniel had been saving for last. It was a photo album, professionally made, filled with pictures of Lena. Lena pregnant. Lena holding baby Mia. Lena pushing Mia on a swing. Lena reading bedtime stories. Every photo Daniel had been able to find, organized chronologically, with space for Mia to add notes or memories as she got older. This is Mommy, Mia whispered, touching the first page reverently. This is so you always remember her, so you know her story. Mia spent an hour looking through every page, asking questions about each photo. Daniel answered them all, telling her stories about Lena, keeping her mother alive through memory. Late that afternoon, Eleanor texted, Merry Christmas. We're having dinner tomorrow. Want to join? Daniel looked at Mia, who was playing with her new toys, completely content. Thanks, but I think we're going to have a quiet day at home. Rain check? Absolutely. Enjoy your day together. They had mac and cheese for dinner because that's what Mia wanted. They watched Christmas movies and ate too much candy and stayed up too late. It was simple and perfect. As the year wound down, Daniel found himself reflecting on everything that had changed. He finished the letter he'd been writing to Mia, filled an entire notebook with their story. He sealed it and put it in his safe, marked, for Mia, when she's old enough to understand. New Year's Eve, he and Mia watched the ball drop on TV. At midnight, she was already asleep in his arms. He carried her to her purple room, tucked her in, and stood there watching her breathe. This was what Lena had wanted, for Mia to be safe and happy and cared for them to have a future that wasn't defined by struggle. He'd spent months feeling unworthy of it, guilty about accepting it, terrified of losing it. But standing there watching his daughter sleep in a warm house, in a good neighborhood with a future full of possibilities, he finally understood. This wasn't about deserving. It was about love. Lena had loved them enough to make the hardest choice, to protect their future at the cost of her present, to build something that would outlast her. And Eleanor's family had loved their daughter enough to honor a stranger's gift in the most comprehensive way possible. It wasn't perfect. It was complicated and messy and came wrapped in grief and loss. But it was real, and it was theirs. Daniel walked back to his bedroom, his actual bedroom in his actual house, and looked out the window at the quiet street below. In the distance, fireworks were still going off, people celebrating the new year. He pulled out his phone and opened his texts to the number that had belonged to Lena. He knew she'd never see them, but he sent them anyway. Had been sending them since she died. Happy New Year, Lena. We're doing okay. Better than okay. Mia's thriving. I'm figuring it out. You built us a good life. Thank you for that. Thank you for everything. I love you. Always. He hit send and watched the message disappear into the void. Then he opened a new message to Eleanor. Thank you for being part of our lives. It means more than you know. Here's to another year. Her response came immediately. Here's to many more. Thank you for letting me know her through you and Mia. Daniel set down his phone and looked around the room, at the life they'd built, the future they were creating, the connections they were forming. He thought about that morning at the bank, walking in with nothing left but desperation and a mysterious card. He thought about Vanessa's skepticism turning to shock, about Thomas's patience, about all the ways their life had transformed. But mostly, he thought about Lena, about the woman he'd married, the mother of his child, the person who'd saved a stranger and never said a word, the person who'd carried the burden of knowing salvation existed but choosing to protect their future instead. He'd never fully understand that choice, never stop wishing she'd use that money to save herself, to stay with them, to see Mia grow up. But he was learning to live with it, learning to honor it by building the life she'd envisioned. In the living room, the Christmas tree lights cast a soft glow. The glass angel ornament, Lena's favorite, caught the light and sparkled. Daniel walked downstairs and stood in front of the tree, looking at that angel. We're okay, he said softly. You did it. We're really okay. And for the first time since she died, saying those words felt completely true. Outside, the fireworks had stopped. The neighborhood was quiet. A new year had begun. Daniel turned off the tree lights and went to bed, in his house, in his room, in a life his wife had built with her final breath. He fell asleep thinking about tomorrow, about Mia's laughter and Eleanor's friendship and all the days stretching out ahead of them. Not just survival anymore, a life, a real one, full of possibility.